Good afternoon, Pasi.
Good afternoon.
Could you start by describing for us the process by which you manufacture this protein?
What we are doing technically is gas fermentation. It means, if we compare it to ordinary fermentation, that, for example, in winemaking, you have a fermenter, you have a sugar's liquid. Sugar is an agricultural product from grapes in the case of winemaking, and then you add yeast to a fermenter, and this yeast eats sugar for energy and carbon to grow and also make the alcohol to the surrounding liquid. What we are doing is very similar, but we do gas fermentation. We also have fermenter. We also have liquid where we have our proprietary microorganism swimming around, but we don't feed this organism with sugar, but we introduce in the fermenter small bubbles of hydrogen and carbon dioxide, and this is the point where the disconnection from agriculture happens in food production.
So your raw materials are essentially what?
It's air. So we are 95%, all of us, we are hydrogen, oxygen, carbon and nitrogen, and all these ingredients we capture from the air.
And so how long does that process take for you to end up with the protein at the end of it?
It is a continuous process, and the carbon molecules, what we capture from the air, ends up to be, depending upon the scale of the facility, to proteins and amino acids in a couple of hours, or let's say handful of hours.
So the protein then at the end of this process is in powdered form. So what can be done with it then?
What we are doing is we are growing naturally occurring organisms. Some grow plants, but we grow single cells that we have found in the nature that are fully natural. And it means that these cells have a protein, 65%, but also carb and lipids, meaning fat. So it is a whole food as such, whether we use it like that or make a protein isolate of it, so taking the proteins out. We think that this can be used in three segments. One is protein ingredient in existing food products, whether it's plant-based dairy, between meals, spoonable products like yogurts or pasta spreads and noodles, or even baked soups have protein ingredients these days. So that's existing food products. The second segment is plant-based meat alternatives. So those need protein ingredients. For example, pea and soy is used these days. We could be a protein ingredient there, but more sustainable. And the third segment for the future is cultured meat. So if we would really produce fish or chicken or red meat cells, real meat cells in the future in the lab, these cells, when they are grown, they would need to be fed with something. They would need something to eat, which is sugars and amino acids. And we think that we can provide this amino acid cocktail for them, so therefore the consumer could have real meat on the plate in the future without knowing that the physics around how it was delivered to the plate was completely changed.
But even as things stand now, could you say that your product could be a replacement to palm oil, for instance, which does do a lot of destruction to the environment around it?
Palm oil is specific a product that contains specific lipids. We are, as a company, focusing on proteins in this case, but there is no reason in principle that organisms could be grown with the same technology that would just hold more lipids and fats to replace palm oil. But currently we are specifically aiming at replacing protein rather than palm oil.
Now, at the moment, what stage are you at in terms of eventually getting to the point of commercial production?
We are operating a pilot plant. In our terms, it means that we have a reactor which is about the size of a man, and the design capacity of the facility is about 1 kilogram per day, and those quantities are used for so-called novel food approval process. So this is a food that has no past or use in the past. So we need to prove that it's good for human consumption. And there's a procedure, for example, in the European Union, FDA in the US, how new foods, novel foods are approved. And those tests we are carrying out, and that takes some time to get that approval. In the Europe, it's about 2 years from today. And during that time, we also aiming at to be on the market in early 2022.
And as long as your factory sources its electricity from renewable means, you're zero carbon footprint. Is that the case?
Yeah, close to zero for a scientist like me. Nothing is never exactly zero, but this is the most sustainable protein there is, and we are so close to zero that it's negligible the emission what there is.
Well, it's a very interesting development. Pasi Vaineca is CEO of Solar Foods. Pasi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And here's Nettie to tell us about some good things to do tonight.
Hi Sean, how's it going? Grammy-nominated Irish-American trad band Cherish the Ladies kick off their 35th anniversary nationwide tour in the Roscommon Arts Centre tonight. They're led by Joni Madden and six-piece band, and they'll be joined by world champion step dancers. You can see full details on cherishtheladies.com, and their full tour details are on there too. After taking the live country music circuit by storm for the last few months of last year, the three amigos, Jimmy Buckley, Robert Mizell and Patrick Feeney, have now announced a new tour for winter-spring 2020. And tonight, as part of that, they're on stage in the University Concert Hall in Castletroy in Limerick. €32 for tickets. They are available on uch.ie. Oh, what a night! A celebration of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. That is currently on tour throughout theatres in Ireland, and tonight it's on stage in the Hawkswell Theatre in Sligo Town. For tickets on that, you can book online or call 071 916 1518. And Sharon Shannon is on stage again tonight in the Dock Arts Centre in Carrick-on-Shannon. €22 to see her, and available on their website, thedock.ie, and she's on stage at 8 p.m.
Fantastic stuff. That's our lot for today. Our production team: Garrett Mulhall, Claire Collins, Mikey Quilligan and Anne-Marie Kane. Ivan's up next on News Talk. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2. See you then.
Turn and face the strange changes. Don't tell them to blow up out of it. Turn and face the strange changes. Where's your shame? You've left us up to our accident. Time may change me, but you can't twist time. Strange fascination fascinating me. Our changes are taking the pace I'm going through. Changes. Turn and face the strange changes. Ooh, look out, you rock and rollers. Changes. Turn and face the strange changes. Pretty soon now you're gonna get older. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. I said that time may change me, but I can't trace time.
Urban living, great design, Scandinavian function and style, deeply rooted in timeless Danish tradition. Bow Concept, Beacon South Quarter, Sandyford. Sale now on.
At Lexus, we have always anticipated the future, relentlessly pushing the boundaries of beautiful design and innovative technology, so you're ready for what's ahead. Introducing the new Lexus ES. Our executive saloon combines powerful, self-charging hybrid technology with an exceptional driving experience and the luxury that you expect from a Lexus. Test drive the new ES at your Lexus retailer and choose from a range of flexible payment options. Lexus. Experience amazing.
It's called The Boardroom because most people in the room are bored. But not when you book at the Red Cow Moran Hotel, where their 21 cutting-edge event spaces are best in class and designed to banish boardroom boredom. Make meetings matter at the Red Cow Moran Hotel. See redcowmoranhotel.com.
Look forward to sailing to France this summer with Stena Line. The sun, the fun, the wine. Sublime. Sail from Rosslare to Cherbourg with super friendly staff dedicated to making you smile. Plus, book your French summer now and get 10% off and a free trip to Britain. Look forward, book forward at stenaline.ie.
The Wandering Hen. Free to roam from barn to fields and trees. Yep, we agree. But let's just put it simply. We cook free-range eggs from hens on Irish Bord Bia assured farms across our breakfast menu. And they're freshly cracked each morning to make every tasty sausage and egg McMuffin. Which is good to know. Served until 11 a.m.
The Great Winter Sale is now on at Cube. There's up to 20% off our entire range of living and dining room furniture, and that's including just about the best Caligaris collection you'll find anywhere outside Italy. From design classics to the latest 2019 ranges, it's all in the sale. You'll find more great Cube discounts on sofas. Choose from specially selected stunning fabrics not available anywhere else. Luxury has never been so affordable. See us in-store at Balbriggan and Sandyford or visit cubekitchens.ie.
You hurl your hearts out for the people who know you inside out. Giants on the football pitch make everyone who knows them feel 10 feet tall. Because when it's club, it lives forever. Next Sunday in Croke Park, Ballyhale Shamrocks take on Bursalee in the hurling final at 2, followed by Currafin versus Kilcoo in the football final at 4. Your tickets are waiting now at gaa.ie and selected SuperValu and Central stores. Under 16s only €5. This is the AIB GAA Senior Club Championship Finals. GAA, where we all belong.
Discover the Bosch dryer range at Power City. The Bosch Home Connect heat pump dryer with self-cleaning condenser gives constantly low energy consumption of A++. Now with a free 5-year warranty. For more information, go to powercity.ie or call in store today.
There's a lot more to financial and investment planning than finance. There's you, your family, your life. At Davy, we get to know what's important to you before we talk numbers. By developing a more personal relationship, it's easier when we do talk about financial life plans. Knowing what's really important to you means we can create the financial life plan and investment strategy that's right for you. Let's start the conversation. Call us today or search Davy. Davy, it's not just business, it's personal. J&E Davy, trading as Davy, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. We take our responsibilities personally.
The Hard Shoulder.
With Nissan Subscribe and Drive. No deposit, no compromise, no fuss. Find out more at nissan.ie.
This is News Talk.
On the show this evening, what effect will all these parties looking for your vote have on your bank balance? We'll be talking finance with some of the heavyweights. Plus, have we become immune to the horrors that human beings can inflict on one another? And later, should we be banning in soccer the heading of ball for kids? As always, I want to hear from you throughout the show. The text line is open, 53106 at a cost of 30 cents. The email is thehardshoulder@newstalk.com. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Ivan Yates NT. But let's get the latest news headlines now with Eamon Torsney, and Richie McCormick has the sport.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. The focus of a farmers' protest in the capital has moved to Dublin Port. Around 100 tractors have been blocking East Wall Road and North Wall Quay in a demonstration over beef prices. The protesting farmers are due to head home via the M50. James Gagan from Individual Farmers of Ireland says he knows their protests have caused problems for commuters.
We're making our point and we're going home, and I suppose at this stage we'll nearly thank the people for Dublin for putting up with us, and we also want to thank the guards.
A strong Garda presence remains in Rathmullen Park in Drogheda, where a house has been sealed off following the murder of Keane Mulready Woods. Garda are carrying out door-to-door inquiries as the scene continues to be forensically examined. People are being asked not to share photos and videos which appear to show the 17-year-old being murdered. Keane was murdered and dismembered as part of the ongoing gang feud in Drogheda. Justice Minister Charlie Flanagan's told News Talk he's spoken to the Garda Commissioner in the wake of the murder.
And I want to reassure communities that every effort will be made. In fact, the Garda Commissioner himself said that every resource is available for Drogheda. I'm not going to stigmatise any community or locality in relation to organised or drug-related crime.
Independent TD Maureen O'Sullivan's confirmed she will not stand in the general election. The Dublin Central Deputy says it was a difficult decision to make. A Sinn Féin councillor has apologised for any offence he caused after saying the country should be run by a family man. West Dublin representative Paddy Houlihan also said he believes Leo Varadkar's Indian heritage means he isn't part of Ireland's history. The former MMA fighter says the comments made on his No Shame podcast have been misrepresented.
It bugs me to death to understand that he leads this country and that he's so separated, not even from society now, but he's so separated from the history of this country.
And Britain's Prince Harry's ignored questions about his future as he returned to duties. The Duke of Sussex has been helping draw teams for next year's Rugby League World Cup at Buckingham Palace today. That's it for now. More at 5.
News Talk and offtheball.com.
Brought to you by Spirit Jaguar. Quality, luxury and value for money. Approved used sale now on spiritjaguar.ie.
Shane Larry is 6 shots off the lead following the opening round of golf's Abu Dhabi Championship. The Clara man won this tournament a year ago. Larry opened with a 2 under par 70 with Sean Norris and Renato Paratore leading on 8 under par. Padraig Harrington is 4 over following a 76. The Lidl National Ladies Football League clash of Dublin and Cork has been moved to Croke Park. It will form the first part of a double-header on February the 8th with the Dublin men's side facing Monaghan. While Bohemians have signed Kieran Kelly from St Pat's ahead of the 2020 season, and exposed midfielder Robbie McCourt has joined Waterford. Ireland women's head coach Adam Griggs has included uncapped Munster pair Dorothy Wall and Claire Keohane in his 26-player Six Nations training squad. And in the quarter-finals of Snooker's Masters, Sean Murphy leads Joe Perry at the moment by 5 frames to 3. For offtheball.com and News Talk, I'm Richie McCormick.
Everybody reacts differently to the shocking affordability of the Dacia Duster. The opportunist, I've heard enough, where do I sign? The skeptics, 0 deposit, too good to be true. And our competitors, shocked into silence. The Dacia Duster from just €75 per week and absolutely 0 deposit. Whatever your reaction is to Ireland's most affordable car brand, there's one waiting for you. Visit your local Dacia dealer today. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply, subject to lending criteria. See dacia.ie.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our lowest car insurance price online, guaranteed.
This evening and early tonight, showers of rain or hail will spread eastwards across the country. It'll become mainly dry later though. Lowest temperatures of -1 to +4 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Thanks, Eamon. Welcome along to Thursday's edition of The Hard Shoulder. What have you of an election flavour today? Well, we're starting our series of interviews here on News Talk on The Hard Shoulder. It's called Ivan's Interview with the leaders, the party leaders. And the first up today at 5:30 is Roisin Shortall of the Social Democrats. But the economic policies were launched today, and we'll have the heavy hitters, Michael McGrath of Fianna Fáil, Pearse Doherty of Sinn Féin, and Fine Gael's Minister of State of the Department of Finance, Patrick O'Donovan, all joining me, the former two, in the studio to find out what exactly they're going to put in your pocket, or whether we're going to have a Dutch auction. Other than politics, we're going to find out about the farmers' protest. When I came into town today at lunchtime, there was absolute paralysis. Every bus, every taxi, right through Nassau Street, all aspects of Dublin 2 were completely seized up. I don't know who they think they're impressing with this, but people are at their wits' end, people trying to earn a living. We'll speak to Patrick Toole about that. But don't forget our regular Thursday features. I'm delighted to say my Thursday interview today will be a man of many faces, many voices and guises, Mario Rosenstock. But we won't be talking about light-hearted stuff. We'll be talking about his childhood, his family difficulties, and his backstory of how he got into acting and comedy, and what does he want to do for the future. And it's nothing to do with Gift Grub, I think. Right, and Tom is here, Tom Dunn, with usual musical matters, educating me on all of that. And as you've heard, they may not be the factual, accurate videos, but the horror of what happened to 17-year-old boy Keane, the whole body parts, the whole story. We're going to speak to Professor Brendan Kelly about why people want to share videos of this, and what is the psychology in society and individually about this, and are we becoming completely desensitized to horror? Speaking of the Thursday interview, just like to say, if you'd like to join me in Drury Buildings. We had a very successful one with David, because the sponsor of it, McGuigan Wines, they spoil you. They give you something to eat, something to drink. It's in a lovely cosy setting. You're just beside here's us here in Diggs Lane in Brooks, beside Brooks Hotel. It's a lovely kind of lounge style thing. Brendan Courtney will be my guest next Thursday, the 23rd of January. Special guest broadcaster and fashion designer. You'll be aware of the film's documentaries in relation to his parents and their elder care and all that. So it's all thanks to McGuinn's. But if you'd like to come along and be our guest, just go to the website newstalk.com/events and you can get a free ticket. And you know me, whether it's matches in the Aviva, I love free stuff myself. Maureen O'Sullivan, I was predicting for the last 10 days that she was going to retire. I didn't think it was in doubt. It's the end of actually a long line going back to 1980, where the Gregory deal was done with Haughey. Methinks that some of these retirements, you know what, they mightn't have got re-elected anyway. Both Nasa Hurrigan and Gary Gannon are going to fight it out for the last seat there. And I think the other three TDs in Dublin Central, Mary Lou MacDonald, Pascal Donoghue and Mary Fitzpatrick, are pretty well established. So I wish her well. A quiet-spoken lady, obviously very committed public representative. Now, the first guests we want to come to are in relation to the decision by the Scottish Football Association to ban under 12-year-olds from heading the football. Yes, it's going to be eliminated. You'll be aware of the stories about concussion, the risk for later life dementia and so on. Well, joining me to discuss this, whether we should follow suit and what are the risks for youngsters in terms of heading the ball, it's a pleasure to welcome Dr. John Caird, paediatric neurosurgeon in Temple Street Children's University Hospital, and Antonio Mantero, coach of Castleknock Celtic under-19s soccer team, who has obviously first-hand experiences. John, if I could speak to you first. Sure. Medically, is this something that's prudent to reduce risks of dementia and concussion?
I was chatting to your researcher. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that it protects people from dementia. Generally speaking, banging your head isn't a good idea. But I'm not sure that heading the football will protect you from dementia in later life. But, time will tell, I suppose. But often, there's a gap of many decades between one's footballing career and the onset of dementia, and traumatic encephalopathy is a rare cause of dementia, generally speaking. So it's hard to know. I think it's a bit of a stretch linking one with the other.
But tell me this, from a physical development point of view, the head, the brain, the forehead, the skull of a 10-year-old versus an 18-year-old. What's the difference?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's smaller. The structures are not as robust as they are in a fully grown adult. So I think, generally speaking, the less you bang your head, the better. I think that would probably, as a general principle,
right?
And particularly as a youngster. But can I say that not heading a football in up to the age of 12 will reduce your risk of traumatic encephalopathy in later life? I can't really say that, but look, time will tell. We'll find out.
All right. Well, so what I'm picking up for you, John, is a pretty tepid response to this. You're not exactly saying bring it on here.
Yeah. No. It's
is this more snowflake nonsense?
It has that has a little bit of that to it, but I mean, certainly, the concussions I see in clinic, the ones that have persistent symptoms going on weeks and months, have not been due to heading a football. They've been due to a clash of heads or hitting the ground or a heavy tackle, things of that nature, that occur in contact sports. And I guess we could take it to the ultimate. If we take the stopping the heading the football thing, then maybe we should ban all contact sports, full stop.
Yeah, boxing, rugby, all contact sports.
Sit on the sofa and watch telly. That's what we do.
All right. Okay, John, stay with this, please. Antonio Mantero, you have first-hand knowledge of this. Should we follow suit?
If it was to vote on today, personally myself, I'd probably vote no. I don't think there's enough evidence yet. I think the study that was carried out, the correlation between that study and between kids now, is very different. I think it was pre-1976. The footballs were a lot different. They were made of full leather. They would have been a lot heavier. And now, children play with various types of weighted footballs. So they actually don't go into a full weighted football until under 14s or 15s now. So in my experience, I mean, most of the head injuries that I've come across in games have been from elbows into the eye or elbows into the head, and very seldom have they been true from heading a ball. Also, the fact is, very few kids head the ball nowadays. I mean, we are trying to encourage kids to play the ball on the ground. So for the most part, when the ball is in the air, it might be from corner kicks, it might be from goal kicks, and even then, very few kids are actually jumping up to head the ball pre under 12's age. So, I don't think it's a big deal, really.
Would you have to change the rules of the game for under 12s in terms of throw-ins and corners and so on to keep the ball on the ground more?
Yeah, well, some of the rules are kind of altered. So from under 8s, under 9s, they can actually dribble the ball in or they can pass it in. So I think, if anything, if you were going to change any rule out of football, for me personally, would be to take the throw-in out of the way. I mean, by reducing the throw-in at that age also prevents the kids from heading the ball, because generally it's thrown in the air for someone to kind of control it with their head for the most part at that age.
But the other point is that is the ball lighter today, and are the skills that you need to be a good header? You see some fantastic headers in the Premier League, glancing headers, impossible angles and all the rest of it, and very deft touches. Is it a skill that you need to teach at a young age?
I mean, yeah, it is. It's a skill. I mean, we only witnessed there last week Ronaldo scoring an absolutely beautiful header where he was in the air for whatever amount of seconds. There's a huge skill. There's a huge skill in timing, in jumping, in the connection of the headers. There's variations of header, from attacking headers to defensive headers. So there is, yeah. I mean, it isn't something that's probably taught enough, and probably should be taught a little bit more. But like I say, the game has changed now. A lot of the game is played on the ground, and everybody wants to try and play football on the ground. So, heading is kind of a second thought. And generally, in any one team, the best headers are probably usually your centre backs or your strikers. Other than that, most people don't really head the ball.
All right, John, finally return to you. What is second impact phenomenon?
So that's a phenomenon that has become apparent in somebody who returns to play while they're still symptomatic with a previous concussion. And there's been a number of deaths. There was a young fellow called Ben Johnson up in Northern Ireland a number of years ago, died after resuming play too soon after a previous concussion. So it is something that, and there's also been a number of reported incidents in the United States. So it's something that we're familiar with now, and certainly the IRFU have a very good website on concussion and sport and about graduated return to play. So if anyone has an interest in sport and concussion, they should go on the IRFU website. It's very comprehensive.
All right. My thanks to Dr. John Caird, paediatric neurosurgeon in Temple Street Children's University Hospital, and Antonio Montero, UEFA B qualified coach with Castleknock Celtic under 19s. Both of them actually not that enthusiastic about following the Soccer Football Association in introducing this under 12 ban on the heading of the ball. Do let me know your views. 53106. Now, that was Gladys Knight with License to Kill, a real classic Bond song from back in the day. So later when I'm speaking to Tom Dunn, we'll be talking about the decision to select a young and very young pop star. Billie Eilish, I should say, is the main Bond theme for the latest 25th Bond film, No Time to Die. Tell me, what was your favourite? I don't think you can really beat Dame Shirley Bassey the way she belted out there. Tell me your favourite Bond song, 53106. And already you're getting on to me about those guys honking the horns, disrupting and paralysing our capital city, those pesky protesting farmers. Do let me know if you've had first experience of being discommoded today. Our Politicos heavyweights are next.
The Hard Shoulder on Newstalk.
With the all-new Nissan Juke, the coupe crossover by Nissan. Nissan, innovation that excites.
Productive afternoons with Harvey Norman. Computer crashed? Don't worry. We have a wide range of laptops that work as hard as you do. Talk to a Harvey Norman technology specialist today.
Go, Harvey, go!
Paul, good to see you. Some game.
Yeah.
How have you been? Last time we spoke, you were feeling a bit down. You weren't yourself.
Yeah, I was under a lot of pressure in work. It was just weighing on me. And I was drinking too much as well. That didn't help. Feeling better now, though. Back running again and eased off on the pints.
Great to hear. Listen, if there's anything I can ever do, let me know.
Thanks, Brian.
If you struggle with anxiety, stress, or depression, alcohol may make things worse. Find out how alcohol impacts your health at askaboutalcohol.ie from the HSE.
Sale, and still more sale. Bargain Town's biggest ever sale continues with fantastic bargains in every department. The Bargain Town sale continues.
For a limited time, claim up to €150 cash back when you purchase selected Neff home appliances. To find out more, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Buying a used car? Check it on motorcheck.ie. Was it clocked, written off, under finance? A UK import. Get the full history. Motorcheck.ie. Don't regret it. Motorcheck it.
There is a new place to buy Peugeot in Dublin, Sandyford Motor Centre. Test drive the all-new Peugeot 208 in petrol, diesel or electric. Buy your new Peugeot 208 today. Visit sandyfordmotorcentre.com. Sandyford Motor Centre, the home for Peugeot in South Dublin.
The Great Winter Sale is now on at Cube. This up to 20% off our entire range of living and dining room furniture, and that's including just about the best Caligaris collection you'll find anywhere outside Italy. From design classics to the latest 2019 ranges, it's all in the sale. You'll find more great Cube discounts on sofas. Choose from specially selected stunning fabrics not available anywhere else. Luxury has never been so affordable. See us in-store at Balbriggan and Sandyford or visit cubekitchens.ie.
Get stuck into the new year with the big 2020 save from Lidl. There's super savings in store and delicious recipes waiting for you online. Warm up those cold winter evenings with our 20-minute recipe for sticky beef stir-fry with ginger and soy. Made with our lean and succulent ready-to-wok Irish beef. Was €2.49, now €2. Delightfully sizzled in Frylight 1 Cal spray, only $1.99. And don't forget, we check out our competitors' prices weekly. So when you check out, you always get better value. The big 2020 save from Lidl. More for you.
Wondering if alcohol is affecting your health, weight, or wallet? Find out using the drinks calculator at askaboutalcohol.ie from the HSE.
It always feels better to go direct. Sam learned that the hard way when he asked Emily to ask Tom, who knew Alan, who knew Sarah, to ask Emma to the Debs.
Sam who?
Going direct is always the best way to go, especially when it comes to switching to Energia and Ireland's cheapest dual fuel bundle. Come to us directly and you'll get the biggest savings with a 35% discount on gas and a 36% saving on electricity. Visit energia.ie. Energia, the power behind your savings. EAB €1,493 based on average annual usage. 12-month contract, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax, T's and C's and early termination fee apply. Valid from January 2020 and subject to change. Verification and T's and C's at energia.ie/EAB.
The Hard Shoulder.
With the all-new Nissan Juke, the coupe crossover by Nissan. Nissan, innovation that excites.
This is Newstalk.
All right, now some of your texts in relation to people being discommoded. Daniel in Ballsbridge said the North Wall Quay and Sheriff Street traffic are at a standstill. Time for these farmers to pack in these protests. I'm trying to get home. Spot on, Ivan. People are at their wits' end trying to earn a living, as are the farmers. Yeah, I think today was the worst day of it. I think from about 12 noon, I just saw the Gardaí had stopped the traffic all down Dawson Street, coming up O'Connell Street, across Pierce Street, and the whole way to the tunnel. It was horrendous, and they were all blowing their horns as if we were excited and delighted with that. We weren't. It was horrendous, and I saw, and you know, only taxi drivers can have a unique anger of their own. All right, just want to say, do send your anecdotes about that and your experiences today. want to plug also, if you can't get enough politics, we're doing a podcast, myself and Shane Coleman, where we're talking about this election different to other elections. What are the emerging themes? What's the competitive factors? What we need to watch out for on the countdown to the 8th of February? It's called The Inside Track. So it's about 20 minutes long, and we've some good audio additional stuff in there as well. If you hear it, I think once you listen to it each week, it's now available on the Newstalk app or at newstalk.com/podcasts. All right. Now, it is a great pleasure to be joined on the line by Patrick O'Donovan, the TD for Limerick Outgoing. Of course, Limerick West, they used to call it anyway. It's not the city one. He's Minister of State at the Department of Finance and the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. Michael McGrath, of course, is the TD for Cork South Central, along with his party colleague Micheál Martin. He is their finance spokesperson. They did a launch today. And Pierce Doherty is Sinn Féin's deputy for Donegal, their finance spokesperson. They were due to get 2 seats the last time. They came up short. All intriguing constituencies. Before I come to the panel here, Patrick, we spoke on Friday after the parliamentary party meeting, and I tried to tell you that the idea of an April-May election wasn't going to happen. It was already a done deal, and you were poo-pooing me.
Ivan, that's why you were a bookmaker, and I don't gamble at all. See, I'm too safe for these things, and I wish I could forecast the future like you, and I'd probably get a bit.
Well, I don't know about that. All right, we'll come back to you just before we get to matters economic, and we're going to talk the macroeconomy. We're going to talk about the money in your pockets. If you have some questions, do text us at 53106. But I have to, first of all, Pierce, put to you a matter which I don't want to interrupt the economic. Yesterday it was Leo having a faux pas in relation to the Lord Mayor about the desperate man in the tent. Let's take a listen what Sinn Féin councillor Paddy Holohan had to say on his podcast.
Leo Varadkar's blood obviously runs to India, so his great grandfather is not part of the history of this country, you know what I mean? Now, Leo obviously he's an Irish citizen, but his passion doesn't go back to the times when our passion goes back. We're in a situation where we have a leader that's not only separated from the history of the country, but separated from the classes in the country now. I want a family man running the country. I want somebody that knows what it's like to have kids. Leo, we talked last week that he had the ability to be one of the greatest leaders ever. But if you pick out people in the country, the man that is a family man, goes to work, looks after his kids, has came up through the system, has experience, maybe is a solicitor as well and has that experience and stuff like that. That's who should be running the country.
Okay, let me just give a bit of context before I come to Pearson. I won't spend too long on this. That's former MMA fighter, a Sinn Féin councillor and a very electorally successful Paddy Holohan, and he was speaking on his podcast and he was basically deriding the Taoiseach for not being a family man, which you could interpret as homophobic, and his Indian heritage, saying he didn't have an Irish history. What's the party's response, Pierce?
Well, look, Ivan, is very clear. The party has called on Paddy to make a statement, to issue an apology. There's no doubt about it that those comments can have caused offence, and he has issued an apology today, and I welcome the fact that he has issued that apology.
So, and Sinn Féin disassociates itself completely.
I think anybody who knows Sinn Féin in relation to our stance on immigrants as a country where we have stood up for people's rights, that the wrong comments. We've asked him to apologise for them. He has issued an apology. They were wrong. They don't reflect the views of Sinn Féin.
Okay, we will move on. Michael McGrath, as man who would be Minister for Finance in a Fianna Fáil-led government, I want to put to each of you, first of all, that while you all have your platforms, which we'll come to, and things you'd like to do, the most important thing is that we don't go back to a 2008-2010 situation. What can you tell us, and I'm going to ask all the parties this, in terms of fiscal responsibility, in terms of the Department of Finance costing all the promises in this election, what would you say would be a reasonable outcome at the, say it lasts 5 years, for the debt to GDP ratio to be? In other words, what's your top line promise to us about fiscal prudence that we won't go bust again?
Well, the top line commitment that Fianna Fáil is making in relation to the public finances and the economy is that we will be prudent, we will be responsible. I think there is a need for caution because there'll be a lot of debate over the next 3 weeks about how this €11 billion of expected available resources is going to be spent, and many commitments made. But there are important assumptions underpinning all of that, and it does assume continued economic growth, and much of that, as we well know, in Ireland depends on external factors, and we've had a very good run when it comes to historic low interest rates, booming corporation tax receipts, a very good trading environment for our exporting businesses. So there is a need to, first of all, be straight with people that all of the promises that everyone is going to make will be contingent on ensuring that economic growth can continue, and there are obviously policy levers to ensure that as well, and we'll set out our views on that. I mean, we have a very significant national debt, obviously at about 200 billion.
What do you think the ratio should be in 5 years' time of debt? Like, it's something like it was the last time I checked, 206 billion. It may have gone up or down, maybe gone down a bit, and GDP is not too far away from that figure. What do you think is a reasonable ratio? 80%?
Well, I think the key issue really is one of net debt, in terms of you have gross debt and then you're taking off your cash reserves. As you know, we have proposed a rainy day fund so that there would be resources put aside in the event of the economy getting into difficulty, that there would be resources to call upon.
Would you care to give me a figure of a ratio?
So that the first step of the next Minister for Finance, in the event of that happening, is not to raise taxes or to cut expenditure. Well, the debt to GDP ratio is no longer used. It's now a debt to GNI star in effect. I think it needs to certainly fall over the next number of years. You will see in our detailed...
You're being a little vague here.
No, well, we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, Ivan, at the moment, going through all of the proposals, and obviously how much you spend and what you're projecting in growth and so on will feed into what you think the debt will be. So
would you think it should go down from where it is at the moment?
Absolutely.
Over 5 years?
Absolutely, and it will. And we will reveal the details of our projection and our plans in that regard in the coming days.
Patrick, on that, you know, we've had the huge windfall of corporation tax. We've had Mr. Coffey of the Fiscal Advisory Council. Just a simple question. At the end of a 5-year term, if Fine Gael is returned to office, where do you think the debt ratio should be in the criteria that Michael has spoken about?
Well, where the debt ratio is now is even more pertinent question, because the debt at the moment represents about €45,000 for every man, woman and child in the country. It's 200 billion odd. Most of that was heaped on people by the last Fianna Fáil government. So what we want to do is we want to, by 2021, reach a situation where we'd have a budget surplus of about €4 billion per year and run that surplus. And we don't want to squander the fruits of what people have invested into the country. And we certainly don't want to go back to the future. And I mean, what scares me and what scares an awful lot of people that I meet on the door is when you have a situation where a party promises to spend an extra €4.5 billion in the first 6 months in the year. And this is all documented. It's in private members' bills, it's in Dáil questions, it's in motions. And really, to be honest about it, this is a question really about who do you trust with the economy. Do you trust the people who drove it over the edge? And in fairness, you know, people like Michael were on backbenches at the time, I know. But when the country was being driven over the edge, no one cried stop. Or do you trust the people who rescued it in 2011, now running a budget surplus, and have the highest number of people
So in answer to my question, you're saying that the plan would be to progressively reduce the national debt by the order of €4 billion a year. Is that what you're saying?
No, by 2021 we would hope to have a situation where we would be running a budget surplus of €4 billion per year. And obviously, look, we want to safeguard the economy. We want to make sure that what we've done over the last number of years, by the way, most of which has been objected to and resisted by the opposition. The proof of it is that there are now more people at work in Ireland than there ever has been. The average income...
We will come on to jobs. Okay.
Yeah, now, but the reality is, in order to make sure that is maintained, the overall economic picture in Ireland and the outward picture that we're trying to project has to be safeguarded.
Okay.
And promising cash that we simply don't have is not a very wise thing to be doing.
Piers Doherty, the two questions are, where do you think the national debt should be relative to, you know, the slings and arrows of our economic performance over a 5-year period? And have your manifesto, has it been costed by the Department of Finance?
Yeah, well, let me answer the two questions directly. So under Sinn Féin's proposals, we will be running surpluses each year. So we will be a safe place of hands to hold the economy, but we'll make sure that the economy works for people. No point having high growth rates if we have a huge crisis in our public services, as everybody knows that there is, or if people are finding it hard to make ends meet through the high costs of childcare or rent or insurance costs. In terms of the direct question, in terms of debt to GDP, our plans are based on the trajectory of debt to GDP falling to 52% at the end of the 5-year term. That is the current trajectory of debt to GDP, and that's what Sinn Féin would also see. The second question you asked is in relation to the Department of Finance. Yeah, so a number of the policy proposals have been costed by the Department of Finance and Public Expenditure through parliamentary questions. Unfortunately, the Department of Finance and Public Expenditure didn't open the costings for the political parties to look for in-depth costings until, I think, yesterday. We met with them last year, or late last year, to ask them to do that. They're open now, so we are getting responses back today, and that's why we're just finishing some of the detail, but most of the issues have been costed already.
And is that agreed across all parties, that there will be verification of the costs of each plan?
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, just to be straight, when it comes to taxation proposals, the department will cost the individual items. They will not cost the combined effect, or what economists would call the second round effect. So if you want to propose an increase in tax, for example, they don't take account of behavioural impact of that. So it's not the full economic costing of the proposals in their totality. It's a technicality, but an important one. But they'll cost all the individual items, and we too will be doing that, of course.
Well, the next thing I want to move on then to is the real economy. So we've had sterling gets weak and tourism has a poorer year. We interviewed the boss of the IDA and Enterprise Ireland, and it seemed indigenous industry not doing that well. Construction, the various problems there. In terms of the real economy, Michael McGrath, what are your priorities? I mean, do you have a package for small industry? Are you looking for balanced regional development? In terms of the real economy, what's your pitch?
Yeah, I think we do need to work towards a rebalancing of the economy. We have done incredibly well in foreign direct investment, and that needs to continue, and that does involve protecting our overall offering on corporation tax and on all the other reasons why foreign direct investment companies come here. When you look at the record of the IDA and Enterprise Ireland, you're looking now at close to 500,000 people working in companies that are supported by both the IDA and Enterprise Ireland. So you can see there the direct dependence that there is on international markets, trade, demand for the goods and services that we produce. Where we need to rebalance the economy is put more of a focus on SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. They have been neglected, and I think many of the issues there really have been papered over by the overall performance of the economy. And we will be proposing a suite of measures for SMEs, particularly around business taxation, a number of different schemes that have not been working well. We've engaged extensively with the representative bodies. Issues like the KEEP scheme, which is a share-based remuneration scheme, the employment and investment
incentive scheme. So this will be indigenous entrepreneurial incentives.
Absolutely. We need to do more in that space. And we will.
Are Fine Gael just trading on their record, or are you actually got anything new for the future, Patrick?
No, our record, it's not a bad record. I think you'd even admit that you have 2.3 million people, the largest number of people that work in the country. And yeah, we are growing our indigenous sector, but we're a small open economy, and we're open to external factors, and Michael is absolutely right. And one of the things that we have to be really critical of and really mindful of is the Brexit deal. And I found it extraordinary yesterday that having negotiated a Brexit deal that will actually protect Irish interests and protect Irish jobs, we have Fianna Fáil's only MEP saying he's going to vote against it. And really, to be honest about it, anybody listening...
I think Billy Kelleher clarified that and changed. Yeah, if your best economic development point is to attack Billy Kelleher, I'm more interested in what you're going to do for another 5 years.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is what we're going to continue doing what we're doing. We're going to grow the economy in jobs across the country, as we've already done. My own region, the Midwestern region, for instance, is one of the highest performing regions in terms of foreign and direct investment and in terms of overall employment gains. In the office that I'm sitting in Newcastle West at the moment, the unemployment register has fallen from almost 60% from the time that I was first elected to the Dáil. We want to continue that, and we want to continue to support the SME sector. And even if you look at what we have done in relation to disruptive technologies and the fund that we've put in place, because we know in the future that jobs are going to change. In my own area, in relation to government technology, we want to make sure that our public services, and we want to expand them. By 2025, we want to see an additional 200,000 people across the public sector in a whole variety of different roles catering for the demographic changes that are going to be there, but they're going to work differently. And Heather Humphreys made a point recently and launched an initiative recently of how people are going to be able to work from home and have quality of life issues.
All right.
So it's not just about job numbers, it's about quality, and it's about the location of them as well. And we have a proven record, and we want to continue on that record.
Pierce Doherty, jobs, SMEs, development.
Yeah, well, look, I think that's a crucial question, because when you pare away FDI, which is performing very well in this country, you actually see a more difficult picture in terms of SMEs, which aren't as productive and aren't as profitable compared to our European counterparts. So there's a number of things we want to see. We argued strongly, and we got it included in last year's budget, to increase the research and development rate for SMEs up to 30%. We want to see that rolled out, but we also argued for a kind of R&D light scheme, which meant that it would be easier for these SMEs to apply for research and development. And that's the key, I think, in terms of trying to create that type of entrepreneurship innovation within SMEs. We also want to see SMEs being able to get a larger share of the procurement that is available in Ireland in terms of state procurement, but also EU. So we are proposing training schemes, packages that would go out and help SMEs to be able to bid for these type of schemes. The other things that are needed for SMEs are obviously the costs of business. Insurance costs being a huge issue for a lot of businesses. They're struggling. Unfortunately, we've seen far too many of them close down. We're the party that's going to take on the insurance industry. We're the party that's arguing for serious reform in relation to that. But there's also infrastructure needs for a lot of SMEs that need to happen, even in this capital. And it's not just SMEs, it's FDIs as well. The crisis in housing is causing serious pressure in terms of employers and on businesses. So our package, which will see the biggest public building of houses ever in the history of the state, will reduce that pressure on them. But also in terms of the wages that they have to pay their workers, if they're earning less than €100,000, every single one of them will have a tax cut.
All right, we have 2 minutes before we take an ad break. We're continuing this debate until 5 o'clock. And they're yes or no questions, just quick around the houses, yes or no. Start with you, Pierce. Do you favour lifting the ban on banker bonuses and salary cap?
Absolutely not a chance.
No.
No change.
No.
And no change from the government either, Patrick.
No, Pascal Dunne was made very clear on that.
All right.
Can I just come back?
I just want to ask one other quick, because I'm going to take a break. The Apple state aid appeal. Anyone give any consideration to dropping that appeal and just pocketing the money?
We have been very clear. You need to drop the appeal. We've spent €7 billion on legal fees. It's not a case that the case would actually drop. Apple would still carry on with the case, but we shouldn't be wasting taxpayers' money. And if that case is lost by Apple, then that money needs to be invested. In our view, it needs to go into issues like climate change, like retrofitting and one-off projects.
It's a binary question.
The appeal needs to take its course.
You're not in favour of
Revenue Commissioners are an independent body. They have made a very strong defence, and that should be allowed to be heard and concluded.
Patrick, you're no way tempted to drop the appeal?
No, and I think if we took Pierce's advice and did that, you would see a flight of people from this country, because there'd be a suggestion we're some sort of a banana republic when it comes to the implementation.
The answer then is no. All right, my panel of Patrick O'Donovan, Michael McGrath and Pierce Doherty will be staying with them. We'll be talking about tax, and if you have questions, text us 53106.
The Hard Shoulder on News Talk.
With Nissan Subscribe and Drive. No deposit, no compromise, no fuss. Find out more at nissan.ie. 100 Days of Walking is back.
Join the movement by registering at newstalk.com/100 Days of Walking.
As we take to the streets to walk every day for 100 days.
100 Days of Walking on Lunchtime Live with Ciara Kelly.
The one that turns heads, the one with performance, the one with technology, the one with style, the one with everything. The all-new BMW 1 Series, part of the 201 BMW range at Conlon's BMW Naas and Limerick. Visit conlonsbmw.ie.
Sky Broadband fills your home with endless possibilities. The kitchen becomes a canvas for creativity. The living room transforms into an arena for online gamers. And the attic, well, that's a launchpad into outer space. Connect with ultra-fast speeds of 1 gigabit and our best ever Wi-Fi all around your home. Sky Broadband, your world is limitless. Availability subject to location. For more information, see sky.ie/speeds.
Buying a used car? Check it on motorcheck.ie. Was it clocked, written off, under finance? A UK import. Get the full history. Motorcheck.ie. Don't regret it. Motorcheck it.
At McDonald's, we're always working to give you choice in your Happy Meal. Like when we made it possible to swap out fries for a veg or fruit bag. Or when we introduced grilled chicken as another wrap option. And now we're launching the new Veggie Dippers, perfect for dipping in our tomato ketchup. These are just a few of the ways we're always working on our Happy Meal. Served after 11 a.m.
Get stuck into the new year with the big 2020 save from Lidl. There's super savings in store and delicious recipes waiting for you online. Warm up those cold winter evenings with our 20-minute recipe for sticky beef stir-fry with ginger and soy. Made with our lean and succulent ready-to-wok Irish beef. Was €2.49, now €2. Delightfully sizzled and fry like 1 cal spray, only $1.99. And don't forget, we check out our competitors' prices weekly. So when you check out, you always get better value. The big 2020 save from Lidl. More for you.
What's gravity? When does the grass grow greener? Can people with longer legs jump higher? How are plastic cups made? How filthy are our parents? Which ingredients make the best slime? Why do we dream? Are you faster than a calculator? Could a robot be powered by fruit or vegetables?
When we empower children to investigate the science behind a simple question, the sky's the limit in shaping a brighter future. ESB Science Blast, delivered by the RDS, helps children develop key skills through a non-competitive education program for 3rd to 6th class. Register your class at esbscienceblast.com.
Love is patient. Love is kind.
I will always love you.
Critics are calling Waves a cinematic wonder.
I know you're under a lot of pressure right now, but I'm just getting really scared.
It's incredible and a masterpiece.
Everything's gonna be okay, all right? We're in this together. Look at you! What you mean, look at me?
It's the most stylish, moving, and intimate piece of cinema in years. 5 stars.
But all we have is love. All we have is now.
Waves in cinemas Friday. Certificate 15A. The Hard Shoulder.
With Nissan's big electric switch. Scrappage is now available on your old car when you switch to a 100% electric Nissan Leaf.
This is News Talk.
All right, we're having our first full-scale debate on the hard shoulder of the election. It's the Economics and Finance Division. We have Patrick O'Donovan, Minister of State for Finance, Michael McGrath, Fianna Fáil's Finance Spokesperson, and Pierce Doherty, Sinn Féin's Finance Spokesperson. OK, now, total tax receipts for 2019 were something of the order shy of €60 billion. And everyone's saying it's fantastic, income tax receipts up 8%. My view is that the public finances have been put right on the backs of ordinary taxpayers, and that if taxes are going up, it actually is the reason why people are not feeling better off. So I want to ask each of you, what are you looking for in terms of your vote offering for the 2.3 million people at work who feel hard pressed when they're looking at their net pay? Michael McGrath.
Sure. Well, we will be proposing an income tax package. It is not our overarching priority in this election. The overarching priority is to have good public services in a decent society. But if you were to do nothing in relation to income tax, then as incomes rise, as you have pointed out, and if you have a static tax system, then people will end up paying incrementally more and more tax as the years go on. So you do need some adjustments. And, you know, we do have a very progressive tax system. We do have a share of workers and pensioners who don't pay any tax, except perhaps USC, which does kick in at a low enough base. So we're looking at all of the options at the moment. We've costed a series of them. As you know, the key options in relation to take-home pay would relate to the USC. You have a number of different rates in the USC, and through Confidence in Supply, we brought about some reductions in that. That was a key issue for us. And then, of course, you have the entry point to the higher rate. So there will be a tax package for us.
Brian Lenihan introduced USC, because all the texts here are about USC. Yeah. We were told it was an emergency measure. Are you saying under Fianna Fáil you'll still be paying your USC? There won't be much relief, because it affects low-paid people as well.
It does, and you know, through the degree of influence we had in the last few years, we did bring about some reductions in it. It was in the last election Fine Gael promised to abolish it completely, and did a total U-turn on that. We won't be promising to abolish the USC. It would not be the sensible thing to do. It might be popular, though I think people see through that, because they want good public services for their parents, for their children, and for their family and friends, and that is our overall priority as a party. So we won't be promising to abolish it, because taxes, that would be a deeply unwise course of action for the Irish economy and the public finances, but there will be tax reductions.
Now, Sinn Féin's tax package, because I fought with you on television and radio about abolishing LPT. I feel if you have a wealthy house, a mansion, you should pay tax. But anyway, that's so be it. What are you promising Sinn Féin in terms of tax?
Yeah, well, we will be abolishing the property tax. We believe that if you have a wealthy mansion and if you're wealthy, you should be paying a wealth tax on wealth above €1 million. In relation to there will be a tax package, obviously, for workers and families in our proposals. There'll also be taxes that we want to see brought in. For example, we want to see the banks starting to pay tax. So we want to see intangible assets that aren't being taxed properly in this country, according to the experts that were commissioned by the Department of Finance. So we want to see that loophole closed down. So there's a number of ways where we can bring in additional revenue. But for families and workers, there's a significant tax package reduction. As I said earlier, those earning below €100,000 will all be getting a tax reduction, according to Sinn Féin's plans over the next 5 years.
On the USC?
And that will be on the USC. The first €30,000 of income will be exempt from USC, which will be a significant benefit to workers and to those in average incomes. And everybody will be benefiting from that. We also want to see, as I said, the local property tax gone. And we want to give a specific tax relief to renters out there, the 250,000 people that are pushed to the pin of their collar as a result of sky-high rents. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts, I think on 6 occasions we put forward proposals in relation to rents. They were rejected by government and indeed by Fianna Fáil.
And for those over 100 grand, how much extra would they pay?
Just on rents. So what our tax relief will be is that they would get 1 month's rent back through a tax rebate. And we used to have a tax relief on rents back in the 1980s and actually just got rid of it 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay. So how much extra would people over 100 grand pay?
So the proposal in terms of individual incomes above 100,000 is that for those earning between 100,000 and 140,000, their tax credits would start to be phased out. So at the minute, the taxpayer subsidises them. They get tax relief of up to €3,300. So they would be phased out gradually between those incomes, and that's similar to what the Labour Party introduced in his law in Britain. For those earning above individual incomes above 140,000, there would be additional tax surcharge of 5%.
Okay, Patrick, as a former finance spokesperson myself, it was almost taken as read, a bit like social welfare increase, that the personal tax credit is now, not the allowance, would be adjusted to allow for inflation. The last 2 budgets, zip change on the thing, which meant people were paying more tax as their incomes grew. What is your major tax commitment going forward in relation to USC, income tax and other taxes?
Yeah, well, there's 2 points, Ivan. First of all, the last 2 budgets, we were making sure that they were as prudent as possible, particularly in the context of Brexit, and we were trying to make sure we did the right thing in relation to protecting the finances of the country. So you're right, they were prudent and the changes were minimal. But Paschal Donohoe is bringing forward a suite of tax proposals that we're going to put forward as part of our re-entry into government. I suppose the main one being the rate at which you enter the income tax, the top income tax rate. We want to raise it to 50,000 for a single person and 100,000 for a couple. And just going back to 2 other points briefly that Pierce mentioned, the abolition of LPT is something that really frightens those of us that are living outside of Dublin, particularly for one point of view. Fianna Fáil County Councillors want all of the money in Dublin ring fence, which means that property tax all over the country is going to go up if they were to get their way. And secondly, as well, there's councils all over the country that are going to be scratching their head if Pierce is to get his way, saying, well, where's our alternative source of income? And just finally, on another point that Pierce mentioned, in relation to procurement, I chair the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Committee within the Department of Public Expenditure on procurement. I wrote to all government spokespeople in relation to public expenditure and reform on this issue. I'm delighted now that Sinn Féin have proposals, because at the meeting that I held, none of them turned up. We have €12 billion that we spend on public procurement in this country on an annual basis. 90% of it is spent in Ireland, 50% of it is spent in SMEs, and we want to try and make sure that SMEs have access to that money.
So, Ivan, if I can just answer Patrick's point. So, either he's been mischievous or he doesn't understand how this works. The reason it would cost €470 million for the Exchequer to abolish the local property tax for every household in the country is because you put that money and you give it back to local authorities. So local authorities wouldn't be at any disadvantage whatsoever. I think Patrick probably knows that, but sure, this is part of the games that Fine Gael are going to play over the next couple of weeks.
Any proposals?
Just in relation to that, this is no game. Councillors across the country are elected to take responsibility for their own areas and to make decisions based on their own areas for the income that they have, both in relation to commercial rates, which councillors change every year, and as well as that in relation to the fluctuation that they're allowed to make within bands and the local property tax.
Okay,
there's an airy-fairy type approach being taken in relation to local property tax. You know, and I know, and the listeners know, it just doesn't add up.
No, of course it adds up.
Okay, well, I'll let you two.
It's all about priorities. It's all about your values.
Michael McGrath, please ask Michael McGrath if we'll at least drop the VAT on barber shops. This is from the Baldy Barber. Other people saying killing small coffee sandwich shops to 13.5% VAT. If Fianna Fáil are in government, do you promise any VAT reform?
Well, look, I mean, we have the 23% rate, 13.5%, and now very little actually left in the basket at the 9% rate. To do anything significant on VAT is very expensive because of the amount of money collected every year by the Exchequer in relation to VAT. I mean, when the 9% tourism VAT rate was increased back up to 13.5%, there were very few activities left within the 9%. So we are examining, is there a way of bringing some labour-intensive sectors and activities back into that, but there will be costs, and all of this involves a trade-off, and at a time when our overall priority
so no
is to
VAT
provide
reform. VAT reform for Sinn Féin?
Our clear commitment is we will not be increasing VAT across the sector over the 5 years. There will be changes coming through at European level. It's to be legislated for. The proposals are before the European Parliament. They'll be significant because they will allow the state for the first time to actually change the type of categories that fall into different rates. For me particularly, one of my focuses will be, when that comes in place, is can we ensure that we can zero rate, for example, some of the fundraising that's taking place. There's people out there rattling cans, raising money for MRI scanners or an ambulance or whatever it is, and they're paying 23% VAT rate to the taxpayer on that. There's changes, and that's one of the things that we would like to keep under review when the changes come.
I have a few minutes left.
Level.
I want to allow each of you, apart from slagging each other, a reason why they should vote for your party in terms of your economic policy, and try not to do any negative campaigning. I'll start with you, Patrick. Why should people vote for you in terms of what you're putting forward for the future now?
Well, this election, Ivan, is about the future. It's about the future of protecting jobs and the economy and families and individuals all across the country. And I think if you look at Fine Gael's record in government since we went in 2011, we now have the highest number of people ever working in Ireland at nearly 2.3 million. But we don't have that job finished yet. We want to see that grow and grow substantially, because there are areas that we believe that we can still make massive improvements in tax, in SME support, and in a range of issues, whether it is in disruptive technologies and all of the support that we have given across the country. We want to continue on the trajectory that we're on. It's working. They're the largest number of people ever employed in Ireland, and we want to continue in the work we're doing.
Pierce, your pitch on the economic policy.
Yeah, well, we're asking people to vote for us because we will be a safe pair of hands in terms of our economic policy. We will deliver a 5-year programme that will ensure that there is budget surpluses each year for every year, but we will do that by making sure that the people feel the benefit of economic recovery and the economic cycle that we're in. We'll do that by cutting rents and freezing rents. We'll do that by delivering the biggest social housing programme ever in the history of the state. We'll do that by making sure that workers have a reduction in their income tax below €100,000 by making sure that the first €30,000 is not taxed by USC, and we will do that in a way that is fair and builds our public services, particularly our health service.
And finally, Fianna Fáil.
We will protect the Irish economy. We will act prudently in relation to the public finances. We will foster and encourage the growth and development of entrepreneurs and SMEs throughout our country. We will ensure that the fruits of any economic success are used first and foremost to provide decent public services, to end the scandal of homelessness, rough sleeping, over 10,000 people in emergency accommodation, and ensure that we have access to our health service for all. Those are the overarching priorities, and those will be our guiding mission if we're fortunate enough to be elected to government.
OK, my thanks to Patrick O'Donovan, Michael McGrath and Pierce Doherty for joining me on our first economic debate of this election. You've heard the pitches, go make up your own mind.
Market Watch.
Thanks to Davy. committed to delivering world-class financial, investment and retirement outcomes for people just like you. Davy, it's not just business, it's personal.
In Dublin, the Isaac Index of Irish shares is trading down 18 points at 7151, while in London the FTSE is trading down 32 points at 7609.
The furniture sale is now on at Flanagan Kerins. There's discount on all stock. Yes, all stock including beds, mattresses, sofas, tables, chairs, pianos, beanbags, rugs, half-price mirrors, pictures and lamps, gifts and even special orders. You also get free delivery, free assembly and free recycling of your replaced bed or mattress. Flanagan Kerins, Southern Cross Bray. Sale now on. Flanagan Kerins, furniture for life.
Time to say goodbye.
It's time to say goodbye to diesel and say hello to a cleaner, brighter future for everyone. That's why in 2018, Toyota stopped producing diesel passenger cars. And today, Ireland's best-selling car is a Toyota Hybrid. Say goodbye to diesel and start your electric journey in a Toyota Hybrid today. Toyota, built for a better world.
Switch to Sky Broadband now and come home to ultra-fast speeds of 1 gigabit and our best ever Wi-Fi, so online gamers can set records in the attic, while chefs stream inspiration in the kitchen, and movie lovers can lose themselves in the living room. To switch to our best ever broadband from just €35 a month for 12 months, search Sky Broadband today. Availability subject to location. Set up fees, terms and conditions apply. For more info, see sky.ie/speeds.
This week at Power City, check out our mega deals on Bosch and Neff home appliances. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Unlock your leadership potential. Discover You version 2 with an IMI Executive Development Programme. From our flagship professional diploma in leadership to our high-impact executive series of short programmes for senior leaders, we'll help you build the future that tomorrow demands. Meet our programme directors at our information evening on Thursday, January 30th between 4 and 7 p.m. at the Marion Hotel, Dublin 2. Register online at imi.ie. IMI, inspiring leadership performance.
Being future ready, it's a powerful feeling. Like putting your out of office on for your holidays. Start time now, end time 2 whole glorious weeks from now. Happy days. Or like pedalling to the top of the hill and knowing that now it's just freewheeling all the way to your front door. Whee! Feel powerful about your future. Talk to a financial broker about a pension powered by Zurich's award-winning investment performance or visit zurich.ie. Awarded Investment Excellence by Brokers Ireland 2019. Zurich Life Assurance PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Ireland's largest B2B event is back. The National Manufacturing and Supply Chain Conference and Exhibition is taking place at City West Exhibition Centre on the 29th and 30th of January, with over 450 exhibitors, 200 speakers and 7,000 delegates. Hear from an impressive lineup of manufacturing leaders, including experts on Brexit, smart manufacturing, IoT, procurement, lean, medtech, biotech, sustainability, 3D printing, robotics and much more. Register for free at manufacturingevent.com. Can you afford not to be there?
The new place to buy Peugeot in South Dublin, Sandyford Motor Centre. More Irish drivers than ever choosing Peugeot. Test drive the award-winning Peugeot 2008 and 3008 and the 7-seater Peugeot 5008 at Sandyford Motor Centre. The new home for Peugeot in South Dublin.
The Hard Shoulder.
With Nissan Subscribe and Drive. No deposit, no compromise, no fuss. Find out more at nissan.ie.
This is News Talk.
Still to come, have we become immune to the horrors that human beings can inflict on one another? Should parents be fined for picking up their kids late from school? And later, the Social Democrats co-leader, Roisin Shortall joins me for the first of our leaders' interviews for election 2020. Keep the text coming, 53106 at a cost of 30 cents. But let's check in now on the latest news headlines with Eamon Torsney, and Richie McCormick has the sport.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 5 o'clock. Good evening. A strong Garda presence remains in Rathmullen Park in Drogheda, where a house has been sealed off following the murder of Cian Mulready Woods. Gardaí are carrying out door-to-door inquiries in the County Louth town as the scene continues to be forensically examined. People are being asked not to share photos and videos which appear to show the 17-year-old being murdered. Cian was murdered and dismembered as part of the ongoing gang feud in Drogheda. Local addiction counsellor P.O. Smith says children are entering the world of drugs very young.
Most people start dipping around alcohol, weed around 12 years of age, 13 years of age, and then they start probably hitting different types of drugs in their late teens, harder drugs like heroin, cocaine, etc.
Farmers who have been protesting in Dublin over the cost of beef are making their way home in tractors this evening. There are major traffic delays on the M50 southbound leaving the Port Tunnel and disruption on North Wall Quay, Alfieburn Road and East Wall. James Gagan from Individual Farmers of Ireland says they will be back in Dublin for further demonstrations.
We definitely will, because we definitely will come back. We are going to get respect from whatever government comes in. We have to get respect.
The Sinn Féin leader says the councillor was right to apologise for saying the country should be run by a family man. Paddy Houlihan, who represents the party in West Dublin, will also question Leo Varadkar's connection to Ireland because of his Indian heritage. The former MMA fighter insists his comments about the Taoiseach were misinterpreted, but accepts they may have offended people. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald says the remarks were out of character.
I understand that Paddy has apologised. An apology actually a very approachable, a very open-minded and a very kind person.
And Ryanair is calling for a tax break for all airlines. It thinks a UK rescue deal for the troubled firm Flybe goes against competition rules. Part of that agreement means the carrier can put off paying air passenger duty in Britain. Michael O'Leary says the same should apply to his company too. That's it for now. Headlines at 5:30.
News Talk and offtheball.com.
Brought to you by Spirit Jaguar. Quality, luxury and value for money. Approved used sale now on spiritjaguar.ie.
Ulster GAA Secretary Brian McAvoy has voiced his strong disapproval of tinkering with the Provincial Football Championships. They could be under threat following recommendations of the Fixtures Calendar Review Task Force. While Shane Larry has made a solid start to his defence of the Abu Dhabi Golf Championship, the Clara golfer opened his week with a 2 under par round of 70 today. Larry finals of the Masters Snooker. He beat Joe Perry this afternoon by 6 frames to 3 at Alexandra Palace. For offtheball.com on News Talk, I'm Richie McCormack.
Introducing the all-new Renault Capture. Whether you're hitting town or the open road, popping a mountain bike on the back or a buggy in the boot, it's the car for all your lives. And with savings of €3,500 guaranteed with Renault Carbon Rewards, you're rewarded for choosing a cleaner car. Visit your local Renault dealer today. Renault, voted Manufacturer of the Year by Top Gear. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our lowest car insurance price online, guaranteed.
This evening and early tonight, showers of rain or hail will spread eastwards across the country. It'll become mainly dry later though. Lowest temperatures of -1 to +4 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Thanks, Eamon. Well, I asked you to give me your view. Were you discommoded by the tractorcade? They promised civil disobedience. They didn't park the tractors. They drove them slowly right through the entire city, ending up in the Port Tunnel. There was huge paralysis, I saw. Some of your views. I'm reading these for the first time. Hi, Evan. Maybe we should ban tractors. Less dirty diesel emissions and fewer tractor protests screwing up commuters and business. Maybe a few years of those horse and plough would soften their cough. Catherine says, Ivan, those farmers are unbelievable, holding up the people of Dublin under siege, and the Dáil is closed. Why bully us? We have nothing to do with their pricing. They're taking the Gardaí away from the two big drug feuds that are gripping the city. I have zero sympathy for those pack of selfish, clueless muppets. Calm down, Catherine. John says, these tractors were parked in Merrion Square where I these tractors, asks John. Eddie in Malahide says, Dear tractor enthusiasts, you've brought an awareness to your cause by costing me an extra hour in traffic. And for that reason, you've now lost all my interest and all of my potential support. And all is underlined. Time for your strategy rethink. Methinks. Stuck in traffic on the M50 coming into the Port Tunnel for 3 hours. All subsidies for farmers should be stopped immediately. They're living off the state on grants already and still want more. They're clearly in the wrong job and we don't need them. Just import the meat and save a fortune. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ivan, these militant farmers are a thundering disgrace. Where are the IFA and the other farm organisations? The silence of the lambs. Dublin taxi drivers should blockade every mart west of the Shannon and give them a taste of their own medicine, says Henry. The guards should arrest these selfish, self-serving fools. They've lost all sympathy from the population of Dublin. Ivan, I'm not a farmer, but I agree 100% with the farmers. They're complaining about them disrupting traffic over a few days, says Jimbo. The government are disrupting the farmers' survival. And finally, those farmers, and there's lots more, those farmers who've disrupted God knows what for the ordinary punter should have all penalty points added to their licence. Take the registration of tractors and also have them checked for tax and insurance like any ordinary person would be if they drove vans to protest and disrupted the whole city, as it's having a knock-on effect, says Laura. Besides, people who may have hospital surgery appointments and have really been disrupted. Right, and I'm worn out after all that. Right, it is always soothing for me to see my next guest in front of me. Professor of Psychiatry at Trinity College Dublin, Brendan Kelly, is here. He wrote the book, The Doctor Who Sat for a Year. We wanted to talk to him about the horrific, depraved story of the week. Yesterday, I was joined by crime journalist Paul Williams in studio to discuss the discovery of body parts belonging to a 17-year-old who was decapitated and dismembered on Sunday night in the town of Drogheda. Paul spoke about the increasing extreme levels of violence and his shock, notwithstanding he spent 4 decades looking at this topic, at the ongoing issues of gangland crime.
In these big working class areas, they become glorified open prisons where the warders are the local criminals, where the people, the foot soldiers, are the 17-year-old boy whose body parts are strewn all over Dublin today. And this is part of the paradigm, and it will continue, and it will get worse. And we keep saying unprecedented. Well, this time I definitely can tell you, Ivan, and I'm without a hint of hyperbole or exaggeration, this is the worst, I think, individual situation I have ever seen in 30 odd years, and that's saying something.
Indeed. Okay. So today, the Gardaí are also investigating reports of images and videos circulating on social messaging apps. Hard to believe that anyone would share such shocking and truly distressing images, but it raises the question, have we become desensitized to acts of really extreme violence? Brendan?
Yes, I mean, we've become desensitized to all kinds of human suffering. We see this in various different ways, be it people taking photographs at the scene of road traffic accidents, be it people watching the videos on the internet of extremists performing beheadings and other such acts, or indeed, as is rumoured to be occurring, images or videos regarding crimes in Ireland circulating on social media. So there is a distance. We've somehow managed to put a distance between ourselves and the humanity of the victims in situations like this. And there's a bunch of reasons why this might be happening, but there's certainly no doubt that it is happening. Obviously, we're fed a diet of violence, which makes it normalised, be it on television, in various crime programs and, programs showing extreme graphic crime like those being reported in real life at the moment, be it in the cinema, be it online, and in the various other formats. So there is a desensitizing and a distancing that happens when this kind of image is a daily occurrence. And, sometimes our brains and the way we react to things doesn't discriminate between something that is fictional and something that is real. So, the reaction can be very, very similar. So if we're fed a constant diet online or elsewhere of violent images, be it in video games, be it on videos on the internet or on television, then when it happens in real life, there is a sort of a distance that remains. Real life doesn't seem as real as it actually is.
And we have to say that these particular images on social media have not been verified as actually relating to this horrific incident. if someone was in Coolock and came across a bag with body parts, tell me about the type of trauma for the rest of their lives kids or others might suffer.
Well, I mean, reactions to trauma differ hugely, but something as out of the ordinary in real life as that will undoubtedly leave a trace forever. Very few people can just get over something like that. So there tends to be an immediate numbing or a very mild reaction, sometimes in the moment, following the surprise and so forth. But this can often come back to the person as the brain struggles to process something like this, and it can come back in bursts and starts over the following weeks, months, or even years, like flashbacks, dreams, nightmares, because it's just too big for the emotional brain to deal with in the moment. So it deals with it in bits and pieces over the years as various triggers or reminders come along. So people develop what's called a state of hypervigilance or hyperarousal. You know, the way if you're a bit tensed up, you might jump when a door slams, whereas other days you might just ignore it. People come to live in that kind of hypervigilant state, and that's extremely bad for both your physical and mental health. So a discovery such as you describe undoubtedly has long-term psychological effects, and these are bodily effects. These are things we're not built to deal with, and therefore our bodies and our brains and our minds deal with them poorly very often.
And can you assist? Can you treat for that?
Yes, it is possible to help reduce the symptoms that people have from that kind of post-traumatic stress. Often it's helpful for people to obviously talk through what is happening to them, recognise that it might go on for a while, and develop various strategies, helpful strategies for dealing with. Now, people automatically develop rather unhelpful strategies, like, for example, avoiding the place or avoiding similar places. A lot of people.
That's bad, is it?
Yeah, it's bad because it can tend to expand. One wouldn't go back to the place immediately, but you'd have to be very careful if a pattern of avoiding similar places came to disable the person and limit their life.
And tell me this. If the purpose of the psychopaths who did this, and if it is verified that they videoed it as well as killing someone and dismembering them and all the rest of it, does it have an intimidatory effect?
It's very difficult to know the effects. When we're looking at behaviours like this, and I will, like you emphasise, we don't doing. I mean, I think we need to think about the role of drugs like cocaine, particularly in the sort of in the waves of violence that we see, particularly in these areas. And you have an exaggerated idea of your own strength and what you're capable of doing, and all the research shows you have greatly diminished inhibitions, and this leads to crime. It also leads to desensitization to violence. So even people who aren't violent and who use cocaine at the weekends should be fully aware that by doing so, they are promoting a culture of criminality and extreme violence in Ireland, and that's one of the things that we're seeing right through the news over the past few years, and that's one of the key unspoken factors here, which is the epidemic of cocaine use.
But I mean, I've never taken cocaine, and the high and so on. In terms of violence and so on, just say I take my drugs and I go to a rave up or a nightclub or whatever, and I mix it with alcohol. Am I more likely outside the chipper to be violent?
Well, yes, you are. But even if you yourself are not violent, remember that by buying the illegal drug, you're participating in a criminal subculture and supporting, a whole drug trade.
I get that,
yeah.
And that's been well documented, how there's a cause and effect,
sure.
and all that. But just the consumption of drugs, does it make a normally placid person potentially violent?
It certainly does, yes. You get an exaggerated sense of what you can do, your inhibitions are diminished, and you're far more likely to act upon violent impulses. And, violent impulses are more common now, particularly among certain population groups, men more than women, people who play violent video games, people with previous convictions and so forth. So, it's really putting a match to a powder keg when people take cocaine or the like.
Just a couple of texts on this. I live in Summerhill in Dublin 1. About a week ago, I walked past a child of about 12. She had her hands in her pockets with her headphones in. I overheard her speaking loudly on her hands-free saying, yeah, I have to collect 5 bags. I couldn't believe it. 12 years of age. I walked past older teenagers openly dealing drugs on a regular basis in Summerhill. The guards are nowhere to be seen. It's a free-for-all. Michael says, all well and good with the outrage over the drugs and gangsters, Ivan, but the well-heeled, beautiful people in snorting coke like it's going out of fashion at the weekend, as we aren't just talking about 20-year-olds. It's all ages, all classes. We know who they are, so why not call them out, as they are as culpable as the person who pulls the trigger? If there was no buyers, there would be no dealers. Simple as that. Well, that was the point you were making.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. I mean, it's very difficult to control a drug culture when it becomes endemic, and we can expect the Gardaí to do a certain amount, but there also needs to be broader population awareness. The Gardaí and no police force is able to control this 100%. There has to be public awareness that drugs, even drugs such as cannabis, have serious effects on mental health, and drugs such as cocaine fuel violence.
And do you think we're moving towards a road in terms of desensitization? That, you see on Narcos and Sopranos and so on, people physically hung from buildings and decapitated and so on. Do you think that there's worse we can expect?
Well, it's obviously,
we never saw it dealt with Irish society.
Well, it's obviously getting worse. It's getting more intense. I don't think it has to get worse. I think we can do lots of things to improve matters.
Like,
I think greater awareness, as we've already said, about illegal drugs and about the role of alcohol would help greatly. Simply blaming the Gardaí is too simplistic, and it's a get out of jail card for people who use it. And everyone who uses is part of the culture. We also need greater awareness of the effect that images have on us. So looking at gruesome images on television or on the internet, they have an effect. Now, we may think that they don't, that we can see what is fiction and what is real, but that is not true. And we see this, for example, as well in studies regarding the effect of, say, pornography that people watch. They affect people's beliefs about the world in ways that you really wouldn't
So
believe.
what's the advice when you're talking about 12-year-olds? What's the advice to parents?
Well, the advice to parents is to keep an eye, or at least tune in to what your children are watching on the internet, watching on the television. Try to guide them toward better material. But above all else, set an example for children. It's difficult to control what they do, but children still imitate their parents. So if we have a parent who is playing extremely violent video games for long periods, the child is going to do the same. And we know that violent video games are associated with poor school performance, school dropout, offending behaviour, and an increased likelihood of crime. Now, they're not always associated with that, but they increase the risk. So if we want the younger generation to behave better, we need to behave better ourselves.
All right. Sobering and sad societal trends, indeed. My thanks to the Professor of Psychiatry at Trinity College Dublin, Brendan Kelly. Do let me know your views, 53106. Now, wouldn't it be a good idea for those parents who repeatedly are late in picking up their kids, causing distress outside schools, worry and so on, not to speak of teachers trying to get home? It's time to fine them $5 a minute. That's next.
The Hard Shoulder on News Talk.
With the all-new Nissan Juke, the coupe crossover by Nissan. Nissan, innovation that excites.
Exciting afternoons with Harvey Norman. There's nothing more satisfying than an afternoon killing zombies or scoring World Cup penalties. Get your head in the game. Ask Harvey Norman about games consoles today.
Go, Harvey, go!
You can admire a new Mercedes-Benz from across a busy street, through the gate of someone else's driveway, or through your rearview mirror. But a new Mercedes-Benz can be even closer than you think, with the new 2020 Mercedes-Benz range, including 8 brand new models. View the entire range at your authorised Mercedes-Benz dealership or at mercedes-benz.ie. Mercedes-Benz. Better is closer than you think.
It's a doddle.
What?
Switching your mortgage is a doddle.
What?
The best interest rates, it's a doddle.
What?
Saving a lot on your monthly mortgage repayments, it's a doddle.
How?
Visit the site.
What's it called?
Doddle.ie.
How's it spelled?
Here you go, it's a DODDL.
No E?
No E. Just .ie. Switching your mortgage doesn't have to be a big song and dance. Visit doddle.ie.
Mortgage Horizons Limited trading as Doddle is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Did you know omega-3 is proven to be good for everyone's heart, vision and brain? Manami More EPA is made from the purest ingredients with up to 95% omega-3 and up to 6 times more EPA in your one a day. More than other fish oil capsules. Discover the full Manami More EPA range today. There's one for everyone. Available in pharmacies, health food stores and online. Read instructions carefully. Food supplements are not a substitute for a varied diet and a healthy lifestyle. Do not exceed the stated dose.
Mattresses delivered anywhere in Ireland, absolutely free. Choose from a fantastic range. Mattresses Delivered is a wholly owned subsidiary of Bargaintown. That's mattresses-delivered. Don't forget the hyphen.
Are you paying a fortune to light your warehouse? You could be saving up to 70% on your bills by switching to energy-efficient LEDs, all at no upfront cost to your business. Visit ecilighting.ie to find out more.
When you sign family members up with Vodafone Red Family, our multi-mobile package, you're guaranteed the convenience of one bill and monthly savings with a third plan free when you're signed up to 2 or more plans. However, we're afraid you're not guaranteed the jokes in the family group chat will improve, that video calls will start facing the right way. No, turn it round. Or that you'll get immediate replies to just checking in texts. But for guaranteed convenience, savings and flexibility, pop in store to get Vodafone Red Family for your whole family. Well, except the dog. Free plan offer based on adding Red Plus as a third plan. Contract depends on package chosen. Offer ends February 28th, 2020. See Vodafone.ie for full terms.
Selling your car? At Zoocar, we buy any car, even if you don't buy ours. It's quick and hassle-free. Fill out your details online and receive a cash offer, valid for 5 days. Visit zoocar.ie today.
The Hard Shoulder.
With Nissan Subscribe and Drive. No deposit, no compromise, no fuss. Find out more at nissan.ie.
This is News Talk.
Okay, a primary school is to fine parents who are late to pick up their children after school. Holy Trinity at Gravesend, Kent, will issue a £1 sterling charge per pupil every 5 minutes after 3:40 p.m. According to a policy introduced earlier this month, social services will also be contacted if a child remains uncollected for a period of 20 minutes after 4 p.m. Well, to get a teacher and parent perspective on this, a pleasure to welcome friends of the show, Ray Silk, former Galway football captain and secondary school teacher, of course, in Galway, and Steve Cummins, comedian. Steve, what's your attitude as a parent?
Well, I have to admit, I think it's a bit unworkable, right? First of all, I can totally see the school's point. I think it's ridiculous. There are some people I think are just genuine train wreck of parents who, like, there's no excuse for being habitually late. Anybody can have a mistake. Flat tire, something goes wrong, and you're late once. This does not sound to me like a school who's dealing with the occasional lateness. This is, some people who use it almost as an extra creche. For an extra 20 minutes. I think calling social services after 20 minutes, I can't see social services leaping on that.
Right. And what's your experience about this?
Well, you see, obviously I've been doing the school runs since both my eldest now is 16, and I've never once, in my pride, my kids have never been late for school. But you do see some people who are habitually late. I could say, drop the kids to school, go grab something fast, some groceries or something, and be driving home and see the same people now on their way to school, either 9:05, 9:10, whatever. And when it comes to collecting them, well, I don't really see people being late, but I know that the last thing any school teacher wants is after a day at school to then suddenly have to sit and either console or just babysit a child for 20 minutes or half an hour every day. There's no excuse for it, really.
Okay. Ray, what's your perspective as a teacher?
Well, I think it's an unworkable situation. Like I was talking to a few people there, just a few teachers as we were leaving school. How would you work it? How would you even get that money? So I think it's a little bit of an asinine approach, to be honest. But I've seen it on occasion in national school and also from a coaching perspective, where some parents do, they swing the lead. They're quite late, but like. Steve is correct. On an occasion, you have a farm blockade, you're going to be late, but it's the persistent and consistent offenders that are the problem. And, I've two 10-year-olds in a national school. You can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes late, and they're allowed hang around. But once you start going into 20, 25 minutes, there's a health and safety issue from the principal's point of view, and it's not acceptable. Whether you can fine them or not, I don't think that's a possibility, but if you were a principal, I think you most definitely need to talk to those parents. And we're looking in the Jazz in Closhdignod, where I teach, that there's a facility. When I was leaving at 5:10 there, the principal and deputy principal were both on site. We allow students stay on within reason in the open foyer, and there's not a problem. The issue is when you're dealing with first class, second class, third class, fourth class children, you can't leave them alone. Where my children go in Scullferber, the main road is right outside the gate of the school, and it's very, very dangerous. So it's quite unfair on the principal, Sean Brannock, if people are continually late. But I have seen this, and we've talked about Gaelic football and soccer and different coaching, Ivan, and it does happen in a situation where I nearly committed the cardinal sin there, Ivan. I stopped myself. But parents drop children and they might come 15, 20 minutes late, which is totally unacceptable from a coaching perspective. You've already invested an hour and a half in that child gratis, and the parent still doesn't have the decency to show up on time. So it's not acceptable. It's very, very bad manners, and it's rude behaviour. Whether you can find them or not, no, I don't think so. And it also is unfair on the child, because there's nothing worse than being the poor child, male or female, that's hanging on the wall waiting for the parent to collect them. It can happen on a once-off, but if it's a regular occasion, that parent needs to look in the mirror and say to themselves, I'm not being a very good parent.
And of course, Stephen, there's the thing that, a 10-year-old child doesn't know if there isn't a serious problem. In other words, that they would get worried, as well as kind of the stigma being left alone, it's your parents again and all the rest of it. You always have that fear that it'll cause them a lot of anxiety.
Absolutely. See, it's horrible for the child on many levels. I mean, if you're habitually late, either whether it's habitually late bringing your child to school or habitually late collecting them, it has to lead to huge amounts of stress. I spent many years working with, children in care and juvenile offenders, and the two most important times of the day for children are first thing in the morning, so I get them up early, give them plenty of time to get ready for school, and last thing at night before bed. They're the times that there should be a very calm, gentle kind of routine. And if you're racing your kid out every morning to school, or if every afternoon they're sitting there wondering whether mum or dad's going to be here on time or not come at all, that's just leading to massive stress for the kids, and it's not fair on them. But I agree with Ray completely. I mean, the punishments or the punitive measures they're suggesting here are completely unworkable. I mean, you can't say, okay, you now owe the school €60 for last week's lateness. You can't just exclude a child from school for that. So that won't. Refuses to pay, and they won't. And the other side of it, if you ring social services to say the kid's been here for 20 minutes and it's the same school ringing up, they're going to stop taking your calls. But I do wonder what you can do about it.
That is the question. Like, if you're both saying this fine system is unenforceable, unworkable, asinine, to use your own words, what deterrent can you put in place? Because there's some people who will be late for their own funeral. I mean, they're habitually late for everything. People come to meetings late. They waste my time, and they show total disrespect for other people. I mean, like, what can you do with such people, Ray?
Actually, well, just an anecdote, but I won't mention his name and shame him, but quite a good friend of mine was late. A male was late for his own wedding, which is most unusual, but the bride was at the church waiting till Terry is his name, came late to the wedding.
Terry, who was it?
I won't go there, but he's a good Cork man. But anyway, what happens in that situation? I think the principal has to call them in and have a meeting, but as Steve said, if they haven't the decency, and we're talking about integrity, decency, honesty, all those good words that we need, if they haven't the integrity to collect their own child on time, I doubt if they're going to pay the fine, and what can you do about it? But most definitely I think they need to be called in, and it spells out in black and white terms this is unacceptable. It's not as big an issue at second level because they're young adults. I know they're still teens, but there's mobile phones, etc. But to leave your 10-year-old, I have two 10-year-olds who are in fourth class, it's very quickly in the wind and the rain and the bad evening, they're going to be very, very upset and disappointed. What you can do about it, I would say, would be a strongly worded letter out to the parent. The parent called into a meeting with the principal and deputy principal. But what sanction have you? But we've seen loads of that in this country. What can you really ultimately do? You can't exclude this child, but you would be appealing to the decency of the parent, and maybe they have to change their work-life balance. Maybe go part-time or they mightn't be fortunate enough to have grandparents. My parents-in-law, fantastic, but it's not just a teacher thing, Ivan. We paid for about 2 years €1,950 a month for childcare for creche facilities. That's what the price was, and that's the decision my wife and I made in order to allow it. You can't have it both ways. You can't have this super high-powered job and be there to collect your children at 2:30. So something has to give. All the school can do, I think, is bring in the parent, explain to them how totally unacceptable it is, and I think Steve's point about the anxiety on the child is very, very well made, and you're not being a fair or reasonable parent if you continually leave your child late, the last paddy no mates at the gates. It's a terrible way to treat your children.
Final quick word, Steve.
Well, listen, I mean, you're singing to the converted here. Although I would say, now this is going to probably cause a lot of annoyance with some people, but I think the vast majority of people who are collecting kids from national school don't have a full-time job. So it's not a case of, work was tricky or I got stuck at work. I think a lot of these people, habitual latecomers to collect their kids, it's deliberate, it's rude, it's their own fault, and it's really bad parenting.
All right. My thanks to Ray Silk, teacher, of course, secondary school teacher, and Steve Cummins, who the last time he was on the final furlong had a snip vasectomy that went wrong. It swelled up like a melon. We must find out how that went more anon. All right. Huge angst amongst your texters about the traffic disruption. It's still going on. One fella has backed up to Blackrock and he hasn't moved 3 metres in the last few hours. People are fuming with the farmers. But now let's get a news and sports update. Eamon and Richie are back.
Thanks, Ivan. Gardaí are speaking to residents in Rathmullen Park in Drogheda following the murder of Cian Mulready Woods. The 17-year-old was murdered as part of the ongoing gang feud in the County Louth town. As you've just been hearing, farmers who have been protesting in Dublin over the cost of beef are making their way home in tractors this evening. There are major traffic delays on the M50 southbound leaving the Port Tunnel. Gardaí are urging commuters to take alternative routes, and the Union of Students in Ireland is calling for more affordable purpose-built student accommodation to be developed. It comes as an online ad shows pods available in Dublin for €130 per week. That's it for now. More at 6.
News Talk and offtheball.com.
Brought to you by Spirit Jaguar. Quality, luxury and value for money. Approved used sale now on spiritjaguar.ie.
Ulster GA Secretary Brian McAvoy has voiced his strong disapproval of tinkering with the Provincial Football Championships. They could be under threat following recommendations of the Fixtures Calendar Review Task Force. Shane Larry's made a solid start to his defence of golf's Abu Dhabi Championship. The Clara golfer opened his week with a 2-under par round of 70. Larry's 6 shots off joint leaders Sean Norris and Renato Paratore, while Sean Murphy is the first man through to the semi-finals of Snooker's Masters. He beat Joe Perry 6 frames to 3 this afternoon at Alexandra Palace. For offtheball.com on News Talk, I'm Richie McCormack.
At Volvo, we have always protected people. We are committed to protecting our planet too. Every journey counts. That's why we are offering 12 months free electricity with the Volvo XC60 plug-in hybrid. By reducing fuel consumption and emissions, it means every journey you make counts even more. Make the switch today. Contact your local Volvo retailer to arrange a test drive. Terms and conditions apply. Refund is based on vehicle's average electricity cost during that period.
News Talk Traffic and Travel.
In Dublin, the farmers' demonstration is making its way from the M1-M50 interchange onto the M50 southbound and is currently approaching Junction 4 Ballymun. In Galway, there are outbound delays on the Tuam Road approaching the Bohernadrave Junction, while in Cork, the N40 is busy eastbound approaching the Dunkettle interchange from Junction 9 Bloomfield. News Talk Traffic and Travel with information supplied by the AA.ie.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our lowest car insurance price online, guaranteed.
This evening and early tonight there will be showers of rain or hail that will spread eastwards across the country. It'll become mainly dry later. Lowest temperatures -1 to +4 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Thanks, Eamon. A lot of people want these tractors clamped. They want the Gardaí to check their tax and insurance and NCT certs. And everyone's going to go vegan apparently after it. I'll come back to that later because I want to get straight into Ivan's interviews. This is the first of a series whereby the party leaders are coming in to have a chat with Ivan in relation to their pitch, their platform, why they want your vote. OK, and first up, it's a pleasure to welcome Roisin Shortall, Social Democrats co-leader and TD for Dublin North West. You're welcome. I often think when it comes to political communication, less is more. The party with 53 priorities ends up with none of them in red. So I was delighted when I got the Social Democrats press release today to say they have 4 priorities. Roisin, you're welcome. What are your 4 priorities?
Thank you, Ivan. I'm delighted to be here. So yes, we have an extensive, comprehensive manifesto, but we are concentrating on 4 key priorities. The first one of those is to guarantee the right to flexible work options. And why we're saying that is because a lot of families are really under pressure. They're struggling. They're trying to juggle minding children, looking after elderly relatives, possibly a person with a disability within the family. And really, I think, there's a lot of people saying, why are we on this treadmill? Are we just living to work? How can we ensure that we have time for our children, time for ourselves indeed, time to look after and visit elderly parents? So people shouldn't be under that kind of pressure. There should be, it should be possible to have your caring responsibilities, deal with those, hold down a job and actually have a bit of a life. But there's a lot of people who feel they've no life at the moment.
So how do you propose, there's only so many hours in the day, how do you propose to sort of legislate for that?
Okay, so look, I think a lot of people are working too long hours. And this is something that's been recognised mainly in Northern Europe. And in Sweden, for example, they have introduced a 4-day week, a 3-day weekend. And it's hugely successful. It improves productivity, actually. And in many companies, they trial it in different ways and they're experimenting in different ways. But in many companies, people get 5 days pay for 4 days work, providing they do that work. And the payoff for that, for the company and for society, is that it greatly reduces the level of work-related stress. It addresses many problems associated with mental health. It reduces commuting times, obviously. It reduces costs for 1 day a week.
But how can the state or politicians, surely that's the relationship between employers and their employees.
I think it's important that, that 4-day week idea is something that we need to discuss, consider an introduction on a trial basis. But there are a whole lot of other ways of having flexible work options. For example, one of the key initiatives that we in the Social Democrats took in the outgoing Dáil was to extend the entitlement to unpaid parental leave. And that was hugely popular with parents in particular. And I got literally hundreds of emails saying to me, you don't realise the difference this will make to my life. We're getting up at 5:30 in the morning. We're coming back in the dark. And that thing, people just feeling that they have no time and that they're shortchanging their children. That's the first one. Okay.
Next one up is this front-loaded home insulation grant.
Yeah, okay. So
how much is this going to cost us?
Obviously, well, it doesn't have to cost anything to the state, actually. And I'll explain to you how it works. First of all, the green agenda has to be front and centre for everybody. And there is now growing concern about the environment, and people accept the responsibility and the need for them to change their behaviour. So that's fine if they can afford to do it. Okay. And unfortunately, what we saw with the increase in the carbon tax and the budget, for example, that the offsetting measures for low income people were completely inadequate. So what we would say is, yes, we need to be greener, but we need to be fairer as well. And, it is not acceptable to pursue a green agenda that actually impoverishes people. So one of the examples of that, apart from the carbon tax, one of the examples is that, we should be encouraging people, and we should all change our behaviour in relation to our energy use. And the best way to do that is to insulate your home properly.
So how much of a grant are you going to give us?
So there is a grant system at the moment, but the problem is that you must have significant upfront funding first. So you have to put up money and you get a grant. So there's a lot of people who aren't in a position to do that. A lot of people on medium incomes, low incomes, who just can't do that. And what we're saying is there should be a pay as you save scheme introduced, so that
what if they don't build it after?
No. Well, there can be conditions there, obviously. But what we're saying is that if you insulate your home, you will have reduced electricity or energy bills, and you should be able to pay for that insulation.
Roughly,
over
how
a
much
period
money are you
of time.
putting into that? 100 million, 50 million?
That doesn't cost, okay? And what we're saying, the energy companies should be able to spread out the cost of that over a long period where people will be paying reduced energy bills, and they can repay what they've got.
Okay.
So a very practical measure.
All right.
That
Establish an independent anti-corruption agency.
Yeah.
We already have the Director of Corporate Enforcement. We already have the Competition and Consumer Commission. I mean, another Quango?
No, not another Quango. And this is something that we proposed a number of years ago. We think it's really important. So on the same basis as the CAB works. So there's expertise, there's Garda expertise, but there's also then tax expertise, there's from social welfare, all of that. That kind of combined approach that we've seen so successfully working in CAB. We're saying the same needs to happen in relation to an anti-corruption agency. We modelled this on, we examined, approaches to this issue of accountability and dealing with white-collar crime. We examined them in a number of different countries, and we came out in favour of a model that's there in New South Wales, which has worked really successfully. And the cost of establishing that agency has been recouped several times over by clamping down on white-collar crime and other impropriety. And, we have a situation in this country where I think a lot of confidence in politics has been eroded because of the fact that we don't seem to be able to bring people to account, whether that's at a political level, senior civil servants, heads of public bodies, people engaging in white-collar crime. So, you have this thing where there's, this strong perception of a golden circle, and where somebody has done something wrong and they get a golden handshake and walk off the pitch. That's not acceptable. Where people do wrong, where people, do not protect the public purse, for example, where they behave inappropriately, there should be consequences for that. And rather than us going into a big, long, expensive tribunal system, which has been the traditional thing, we should be able to deal with that through the criminal justice system. And that's why we're saying it's essential to establish an anti-corruption agency to restore confidence in public life.
Okay, and you've also set out a timetable and deadlines for Sláinte Care implementation, affordable housing and public transport and cycling provision. How about the point, facing into this 2020 election, that if you take Gary Gannon, who is at your launch, with perhaps other than yourself and Catherine the best chance on paper, when I'm looking at that constituency and where it's at, I'm looking at the competitors, NASA Hurricane of the Greens, and Fianna Fáil, that through the local elections, through the European elections and by-elections, has someone else kind of got in there and eaten your lunch? In other words, has the moment of the Soc Dems passed?
I don't think so. I mean, Ivan, you know how difficult it is to establish a new party, okay? And you're competing with much bigger outfits that are much better funded. We're very happy with the progress that we've been making. We were only founded in 2015. But wait now, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We've been developing the party. We have a very strong membership base. We're established in most constituencies now. That is a huge undertaking. And we now have a very impressive slate of candidates. We're running 20 candidates. Earlier this year, we got 19 councillors elected, which was quite a breakthrough, actually. It was probably the second best party result in the local elections. We went into the elections with 6 councillors. We came out with 19, and we were very pleased about that.
But the way people give out, there's not a cigarette paper between FF and FG. You could say the same about Soc Dems and Labour, other than personality clashes over the years.
No, you see, it was never personality clashes, and certainly when I parted ways with Labour, some people sought to portray it as that. Look, there was a very serious question of principle and policy.
I know the primary care teams, and we needn't rehash that.
No, I'm not going to rehash it.
Today, what's the difference between you and the Labour Party?
Well, there are a lot of similarities in the two party manifestos and the policy base of the two parties. But, I'd have to say that the Labour Party had an opportunity to implement their policies in government, and that didn't happen, unfortunately. And, that was at the heart of why I left the Labour Party. It was my strong view that the Labour Party was in favour of the allocation of resources on the basis of need. And, when it came to allocating money for the primary care centres and for healthcare workers in 2012, when I was in the Department of Health, what we saw was a moving away from what I was proposing, that those resources would be allocated on the basis of need. Okay. And what we saw was Fine Gael in particular, but supported by Labour, in using public money as some kind of political slush fund.
Okay.
And that's not acceptable.
The electorate will deliver their result around the 9th of February. The Dáil resumes. In the interim period, it's likely that no party will have a majority. Do you favour a Fianna Fáil or a Fine Gael-led administration, insofar as I know they have a choice of a grand coalition? Do you have any preference, or will it just come down to the horse trading afterwards?
It will come down to where we as Social Democrats...
Are you indifferent as to Leo or Micheál?
Really. Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, we are. And I mean, it's a bit demoralising really that we're kind of back in a situation where we're talking about two big beasts and the face-off between Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin. And we're still...
But it is a kind of reality. There's only going to be one or other for Taoiseach.
Well, yes, but I mean, there is another block there, which is the kind of the left block, which is a bit bigger than either
you'd
Fianna
actually
Fáil or
say the largest of the left block was Mary Lou. Would you be happy to make her Taoiseach?
This isn't about personalities, okay?
No, I'm just saying, no. Like the only other conceivable choice for Taoiseach in terms of where we'll stand is...
That's not necessarily the case. And, history has shown there's been examples where maybe a person was drawn from a smaller party. It doesn't have to be the existing leader and so on. Look, I think in the longer term, not in this election, but I think in the next election, there will be a move towards the unifying of the left.
It is very fragmented.
Yeah, it is fragmented. There's no doubt about that. I accept that. And we need to start working more closely together. Great example there in Finland, where 5 parties, progressive parties, have come together to form a coalition. And I think we are moving in that direction. There is no future for any party of the left to be in government propping up either Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, to be decimated at the next election. And history has shown that's happened to the Labour Party because they didn't stand up. It's happened to the Green Party because they didn't stand up. That's the dilemma of coalition with a right-wing party. So, we have to be more progressive in our thinking about politics.
All right. You have been listening to the first of our leader interviews with Roisin Shortall, Social Democrats co-leader and TD for Dublin North West. You've heard her pitch. They are putting forward 20 candidates in 20 different constituencies. You pays your money and takes your chances. Best of luck to them all. Thank you for joining us. Roisin Shortall. We'll have the business news next.
The Hard Shoulder on News Talk.
With Nissan Subscribe and Drive. No deposit, no compromise, no fuss. Find out more at nissan.ie.
News Talk Breakfast.
The general election is well underway, and here on News Talk Breakfast, we'd like you to set the agenda.
Party leaders will be taking your calls live on air throughout the campaign, giving you direct access to the people who will call the shots after the votes are counted.
First to run the gauntlet tomorrow morning, Green leader Eamon Ryan. What would you like to hear from him? Well, it's your call.
Get your questions in now by emailing breakfast@newstalk.com or tweet us at breakfastnt.
News Talk Breakfast with Shane Coleman and Kieran Cuddihy.
In association with AIR.
Tomorrow morning from 7.
On News Talk.
Time to say goodbye.
It's time to say goodbye to diesel and say hello to a cleaner, brighter future for everyone. That's why in 2018, Toyota stopped producing diesel passenger cars. And today, Ireland's best-selling car is a Toyota Hybrid. Say goodbye to diesel and start your electric journey in a Toyota Hybrid today. Toyota, built for a better world.
At Centra, we have great offers in our better than half price sale. Like Centra Extra Lean Diced Beef 410 gram, now €1.95. Kellogg's Corn Flakes 720 gram, now €1.73. And Comfort Fabric Conditioner 36 wash, now €2.32. Centra, live every day.
Love is patient. Love is kind.
I will always love you.
Critics are calling Waves a cinematic wonder.
I know you're under a lot of pressure right now, but
I'm just getting really scared.
It's incredible and a masterpiece.
Everything's gonna be okay, all right? We're in this together.
Look at you!
What you mean, look at me?
It's the most stylish, moving, and intimate piece of cinema in years. 5 stars.
But all we have is now. All we have is now.
Waves in cinemas Friday. Certificate 15A.
You hurl your hearts out for the people who know you inside out. Giants on the football pitch make everyone who knows them feel 10 feet tall. Because when it's club, it lives forever. Next Sunday in Croke Park, Ballyhale Shamrocks take on Bursalee in the hurling final at 2, followed by Currafin versus Kilcoo in the football final at 4. Your tickets are waiting now at gaa.ie and selected SuperValu and Central stores. Under 16s only €5. This is the AIB GAA Senior Club Championship Finals. GAA, where we all belong.
Big clearance event now on at Curry's PC World. With unmissable deals on big brand washing machines like LG, Samsung and Beko from less than €200. Save €340 on the Samsung American-style fridge freezer for only $999. Get the HP Pavilion with Ryzen 3 processor and 256 gig storage, only $399. And get a free Google Nest Mini with every Fitbit Inspire HR for only €89. Get in store or online at currys.ie. T's and C's apply.
There's a new place to buy a Peugeot commercial in Dublin, Sandyford Motor Centre, your South Dublin Peugeot Commercial Centre. The Irish Van of the Year 2020 Peugeot partner, the Peugeot Expert and Boxer are all available with up to €4,000 scrappage and low rate finance. Visit sandyfordmotorcentre.com.
John Murphy, Head of Commercial Strategy at Arkfire, explains how Rigney Dolphin recently undertook a series of transformation projects with Arkfire and Dell Technologies.
Rigney Dolphin wanted to modernise their IT operations and move to cloud-style economics, while also enabling the business to scale efficiently and securely. Arkfire and Dell Technologies architected a world-class, hyper-converged, flex-on-demand solution, allowing Rigney Dolphin to scale rapidly to meet the demands of their clients.
To find out how Arkfire, a Dell Technologies titanium partner, can support your business transformation, visit arkfire.com/IT.
Are you paying a fortune to light your warehouse? You could be saving up to 70% on your bills by switching to energy-efficient LEDs, all at no upfront cost to your business. Visit ecilighting.ie to find out more.
Business Today.
Thanks to Davy. Committed to delivering world-class financial, investment and retirement outcomes for people just like you. Davy. It's not just business, it's personal.
Donal O'Donovan, business editor with the Irish Independent, joins us with today's business stories. What's this about the greening of business is accelerating?
Interesting, yeah. The German government has announced today that they're creating a deal, what they're calling a sort of an agreement with the German states and with the German energy companies to go coal free. They want to go coal free by 2038 in terms of producing energy from coal. It's a big step for Germany. They have a couple of states there that are heavily dependent on coal. Coal, traditionally a big industry in Germany and next door in Poland. It's a big package as well. I mean, they're talking about a 40 billion just transition package. Similar enough in terms of the terminology and the language to what we're doing in the Midlands with the peat power stations on a much bigger scale. It's interesting, I suppose. Germany feels that they need to do this. They know, everyone knows ultimately that this kind of very intensive burning of carbon is not going to be sustainable into the future. We're seeing it in business. We're seeing it with governments. RWE, big, huge German energy producer, their shares are up today on the back of this. They're probably the biggest company affected, but ultimately it's setting out their sort of roadmap to future profits as much as to future sustainability. Interesting enough, we just a report in the Irish Independent this morning as well in the business section that companies here, a lot of companies here looking at M&A, mergers and acquisition, deal making, are looking at it with a view to how this sort of ecological and environmental trend is impacting their business. So there are generally two things that are driving, two impulses will drive any business. There's greed and there's fear. So the greed is, how much money can I make doing X, and the fear is, well, what's the bad thing going to happen to me and to my business if I do Y? So companies are very conscious now that there are big fines, potentially shock costs, potentially environmental taxes if you happen to be in the wrong business, the wrong segment, the wrong sector at the wrong time, and the wrong time is increasingly soon. So it's interesting, I suppose, in the sense that up to now, really consumer behaviour and to some extent sort of government push and regulatory push has been a huge driver of environmental change.
business fear of getting caught on the wrong side of the environmental trend is I think, going to be a big feature into the future.
Now, the big drinks firm C&C makes Bulmers, amongst other things. Their CEO has stepped down. What's happening?
Yeah, big surprise today. Stephen Clancy, who's the CEO, has been the CEO there for a couple of years and doing very well. He's announced that he's stepping down. That is a surprise. The shares are down fairly sharply today. He's going to leave the company at the end of February, so very quickly. They have started the process, or they're starting the process of finding a replacement. Stuart Gilliland, who's the chairman, is going to kind of step into the breach in the meantime, as he'll be the executive chairman until a new replacement is found. Stephen Clancy is 59. I mean, so it's not, he'd be at the age where CEOs tend to retire, but he hadn't really flagged this, and doing well. I mean, his own pay last year was 1.8 million euros, which was well up on the previous year. C&C, which is a company I've always kind of struggled to get my head around. They do make Magners for the UK market. Bulmers here, the Scottish business Tennant is a big part of their business. They make the beer, but they've kind of struggled over the years to get scale. They kind of have gotten there since 2018. They've been buying distribution businesses in the UK, and the Admiral Taverns pub chain, that's given them a bit more sort of heft in the UK market, and that's kind of paid off for them in terms of their sales are well up and their profitability is well up. So timing of that is interesting for C&C. They are, I mean, a profitable business. The profits in 2018 were very significant. Almost 105 million of a profit for the financial year, operating profit. That's a lot of money. They are dwarfed though by the big players in beer and drinks. So they're in a sort of.
Could they become an acquisition target finally?
It wouldn't surprise me. They're not on the scale of the big beer guys, but on the other hand, they are profitable, so they could continue to carve their way. On the other hand, people will definitely take a look.
All right, Donal O'Donovan, business editor of the Irish Independent. Thank you today and the rest of the week for all the business stories. Don't forget, my Thursday interview guest today is the inimitable Mario Rosenstock.
Business Today.
Thanks to Davy. Committed to delivering world-class financial, investment and retirement outcomes for people just like you. Davy. It's not just business, it's personal.
I'm 36. I'm a husband, a father, a manager. I live in the country. I work in the city. Shortly, I have the most important meeting of my life. But first, I think there's time to play. Just me and my Suzuki Vitara. Its amazing handling on and off road means it's always fun to drive. Honestly, get down to your local Suzuki showroom today to find out more about the unmissable 201 offers on the Suzuki Vitara and across the entire Suzuki range.
Kids grow. It's what they do. Legs stretch, arms extend, tiny fingers branch out. Before you know it, your little people are anything but. If only your place would grow with them. But walls don't stretch and ceilings won't extend. Which is why if you're thinking of moving house, it's always worth talking to the Ulster Bank mortgage team to see how we could help. Talk to us today. Ulster Bank. Help for what matters. Over 18s and residential mortgages only. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
This old house needs insulation. This old house lets in the cold. This old house needs energy upgrades. All this house is getting sold. Ain't gonna heat this house no longer. Ain't gonna heat that water no more. Got Energlaze heat retaining windows. Energlaze high performance doors. Energlaze solar PV and thermal. Even kept our window frames with Energlaze home energy solutions. Our home is smiling even when it rains.
Take the first steps and find out how to make your old home warmer and more energy efficient. Visit energlaze.ie. Every upgrade you make makes a difference.
This 200-page report for your board meeting was printed using a branded ink cartridge. And this 200-page report was printed using a high-grade ink cartridge from inkjet.ie. What's the difference? Oh, about €15. Get quality ink cartridges from just €2 and fast delivery at inkjet.ie.
People are like internet connections. Some just aren't as flexible as others.
Look, it's my way or the highway.
However, Magnet networks are dedicated to being completely adaptable, and that's what our dedicated internet access offers. It gives businesses a powerful private connection, using whatever technology it takes to deliver ultra-fast internet access virtually anywhere. Magnet Networks is now Ireland's largest connectivity network. Learn more at magnetnetworks.com. Magnet Networks, dedicated to connectivity.
The Harvey Norman Big Sale ends soon. Don't miss your chance to get big savings on home appliances. Keep your health kick on track with the Sage Boss to Go blender. Now only €99. That's a saving of €80. Or get the Magic Bullet Deluxe blender by NutriBullet. It does the job of multiple kitchen appliances with no mess. Now just $42.95. And at Harvey Norman, we're matching all competitors' prices. So why shop anywhere else? The Harvey Norman Big Sale. Don't miss out.
Go! Come to the University of Limerick Open Day on Saturday, January 18th. Visit our award-winning campus and find out why UL has been voted Best Student Campus 2019. Discover our range of courses for school leavers, postgrads, mature students and professional learners. Book your place now and find out more on study@ul.ie.
It's almost 6 o'clock. Time to pull into your nearest Texaco service station and fill up with fuel that delivers first-class performance and helps improve the efficiency of your car. Texaco. Trusted in Ireland since 1924.
News Talk Traffic and Travel.
There's very heavy traffic in Dublin southbound on the M50 from the M1 interchange down past Junction 4 Ballymun, where all lanes are blocked. Alternative routes are advised. In Galway there are delays on the Tuam Road approaching the Bourne Drave Junction, while in Cork it's busy approaching the Dunkettle interchange from Junction 6 Kinsale Road. News Talk Traffic and Travel with information provided by the AA.ie.
The Hard Shoulder.
With Nissan Subscribe and Drive. No deposit, no compromise, no fuss. Find out more at nissan.ie.
This is News Talk.
Still to come, the farmers have left the capital in their tractors for now, but what comes next? Has the right voice been chosen for the new Bond movie theme? Tom Dunn weighs in, and later, behind the laughter, my Thursday interview guest is the man of 1,000 voices, Mario Rosenstock. Keep the text coming, 53106, but let's get the latest news headlines now with Eamon Torsney, and Richie McCormick has the sport.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 6 o'clock. Good evening. There's traffic chaos in Dublin this evening following a protest by farmers. Around 100 tractors are heading home via the Port Tunnel and M50 after farmers moved their demonstration from Leinster House to Dublin Port this afternoon. They're angry over the price they're getting for beef. James Gagan from Individual Farmers of Ireland says they'll be back.
We definitely will, because we definitely will come back. We are going to get respect from whatever government comes in. We have to get respect.
A strong Garda presence remains in Rathmullen Park in Drogheda, where a house has been sealed off following the murder of Keane Mulready Woods. Gardaí are carrying out door-to-door inquiries in the County Louth town as the scene continues to be forensically examined. People are being asked not to share photos and videos which appear to show the 17-year-old being murdered. Keane was murdered and dismembered as part of the ongoing gang feud in Drogheda. Professor of Psychiatry at Trinity College Dublin, Brendan Kelly, says there are a number of reasons why sharing graphic images of real-life crime has become normalised.
So we've somehow managed to put a distance between ourselves and the humanity of the victims in situations like this.
The leader of the Social Democrats says she's indifferent as to who would lead a coalition after the election. Roisin Shortall insists it isn't about personalities when it comes to leading a government. Speaking on the Hard Shoulder here on News Talk, she said it's disappointing. The focus is on the leader of the two main parties.
It's a bit demoralising, really, that we're kind of back in a situation where we're talking about two big beasts and the face-off between Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin.
And the Sinn Féin leader says a councillor was right to apologise for saying the country should be run by a family man. Paddy Houlihan, who represents the party in West Dublin, also questioned Leo Varadkar's connection to Ireland because of his Indian heritage. The former MMA fighter insists his comments about the Taoiseach were misinterpreted, but accepts that they may have offended people. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald says the remarks were out of character.
I understand that Paddy has apologised. An apology was the correct thing to do.
That's it for now.
To you by Spirit Jaguar. Quality, luxury and value for money. Approved used sale now on spiritjaguar.ie.
Ulster GAA Secretary Brian McAvoy has voiced strong disapproval of changing the provincial football championships. They could be under threat following recommendations of the Fixtures Calendar Review Task Force. Speaking in his annual report, McAvoy says ending the provincial championships would be a grave mistake. Shane Lowry made a solid start to his defence of the Abu Dhabi Golf Championship. The Clara golfer opened his week week with a 200 power round of 70 today. Larry is 6 shots off joint leaders Sean Norris and Renato Paratore, while Derby County have been charged with breaching the Football League's financial rules. A review of the Championship club's finances found they'd recorded excessive losses over a 3-year period up until the end of June 2018. For offtheball.com and News Talk, I'm Richie McCormick.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to the AA. For great value car, home and travel insurance, go to the AA.ie.
Well, this evening and early tonight, showers of rain or hail will spread eastwards across the country. It'll become mainly dry later. Lowest temperatures of -1 to +4 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Now, a lifetime ago at 4 o'clock, I was asking what was your favourite Bond movie, as I'll be speaking to Tom about the selection for the latest 25th Bond movie of the theme tune at the start of it. Angie says, my favourite Bond is Roger Moore, and favourite song Wings, Live and Let Die. And who can forget that chase through the Bayou? Brilliant. Casino Royale song You Know My Name by Chris Cornell. Live or Let Die was a great one, as was Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah, I think that might be my favourite. Radiohead did a good one for Spectre, but it was rejected for that Tripe by Sam Smith, says a not so happy Brendan in Cork. Best Bond song, Carly Simon, No One Does It Better. Good song for you. Thank you, Derek. But the texts keep coming. Ivan, rules of the motorway say you must drive tractors at 50 kilometres per hour at constant speed. Will the Gardaí implement the law and charge these farmers? This is the procession that's happening southbound on the M50. A phalanx of traffic held up behind it. I didn't listen really too much about the whole tractor brigade. I've just been in the supermarket and bought a sirloin roast. It had 50% off. No wonder the farmers are upset. But Ronan says Dublin Port is a mess. Thousands of trucks at a standstill. This is ridiculous. I was a supporter of the farmers, but patience is running out. Stop this now. Ivan, we're in gridlock on Dublin Quays. I'm giving up meat. Why the hell are the farmers being allowed to block 3 lanes of the M50, says an irate Brian. Ivan, having to wait on Eastwall Road for 3 hours. They took €10 off me in the tunnel. And 5 to 6, says John, on the way to Belfast. And there are literally dozens and dozens more texts. Well, to try and put some light rather than heat on this issue, we're joined by our good friend Pat O'Toole, news editor of the Farmers Journal. First of all, is there more protests planned, Pat, with the election now on?
No. My understanding is that there won't be anything for a while. The farmers won't say that. These protesting farmers certainly won't say that. They'll keep their powder dry, but we're heading into the busiest time of year on farms. Anyone that has cattle or sheep, they're going to be lambing, they're going to be calving. Now, and I think there will also be reflection on the reaction. Farmers have been in the bubble. They've been with each other for the last couple of days, and when they go home and they look at the reaction and the fallout from their action, they'll have to ponder the wisdom of further action of that nature.
Yeah, it did seem remarkable when there was no one inside the Dáil, and just to impact on commuters and people going about their day-to-day business in Dublin seemed just counterproductive.
It had been planned before the government fell. I think the events overtook the government, and I think events overtook the protesting farmers. They decided to come ahead anyway. It was easier to plough on than to turn back. But it did seem strange. If a tree falls in the forest and all that, they are trying to make a statement, not just to government, but to society, that farming, which is so central to rural Ireland economically and socially as well, is under threat because farmers are going out of business. And an awful lot of the farmers who are there, if you talk to them one-to-one and you break down their own personal situations, you realise that they're absolutely up against the wall and that they're not there out of any sense of wanting to bring anyone else down, but it's the desperate last act of someone who's drowning and wants the world to hear their voice and hoping for a reaction. So The problems are very deep-rooted, they're very complex, there are no simple answers, but these farmers don't believe that they're getting a fair hearing or that the attention or urgency is being paid. Much like the climate protesters on the other side of the coin, if you like, they feel that there's an urgency about their situation which is not being responded to.
Now, just tell me, in terms of the beef task force and the progress or lack of. Last night when we were debating this topic, Michael Fitzmaurice, the independent Roscommon Galway TD, asserted, and I was wondering if it's a statement of fact, that the very same animal, a bullock or a heifer, slaughtered in Northern Ireland, identical weight, identical carcass, is paying €150 more if you get it slaughtered in the north. Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much. And there's a very simple reason. It's British, and it qualifies for the red tractor symbol. Britain is a net importer of meat. They import about 25% of their meat. About 50% of our meat, about 90% of our meat is exported. 50% of that to the UK. About 70% of British imports currently are Irish. So that's the nature of the relationship. And because British farmers are in a deficit market, their product gets a better price. And it pretty much always has. You also have the currency differential, which has played havoc with stability around the relationship, the farm price relationship between Ireland and the UK, and indeed the rest of Europe and the UK in recent months.
But if you go into Sainsbury's or Waitrose or any of those, you'll pay a higher price for British beef.
It is branded separately and marketed separately. It's got that red tractor symbol, and it is a premium product. Yeah.
Okay.
And now the reality is that that's a change. During the BSE days, as you will remember, the proud boast of an awful lot of British outlets, restaurants, supermarkets, chippers, was that they only used Irish beef at a time when British beef, when its reputation was in the gutter. It has recovered.
Okay. And in terms of the 30-month rule, whereby if you're a couple of days over the 30-month life of the animal, going back to the BSE regime, whereby they didn't want animals to be slaughtered later because they might develop mad cow disease, is there been any flexibility at the task force in relation to the implementation of that?
No. The 30-month rule is there, and you can't really have a grace. A bit like VAR, unfortunately. Once you have a rule, you must observe the rule. What they're looking at now, there's two things. First of all, they're looking at the viability of the 30-month rule, or the 30-month rule. As you rightly say, it's a legacy of the BSE, because younger animals were considered to be not at risk of contracting BSE. It was a disease that affected older animals, and as a result, we separated younger animals out. They became an elevated product, and the market continued to want them, especially around the time that this system was introduced 10 years ago. McDonald's were adamant they wanted under 30-month beef. As a result, we have this 30-month rule. Is it still a requirement? Well, only Tesco's of the retailers who attended the last round of the forum used it as a stipulation. So it may not be required anymore, but getting rid of it it's something that takes a little bit of time. The other alternative is there was this week Teagasc researchers proposed a completely different method of reaching a price system. It's called A plus B minus C, and basically, rather than having what we currently have, which is a grid, whereby animals are categorised somewhere in the grid and they get a payment appropriate to that categorisation, which is a very rigid system. This would be more of a sliding scale where you determine the meat yield, and that's now possible through technology, through cameras or whatever, and then you take away the fat, and by the end of it all, you've got the confirmation of the quality of the meat, and at the end of it all, you reach a price unique for that animal rather than this grid. So that would take time as well. None of this is simple. None of this can be introduced overnight. It has to be said that the protesters have put real impetus through the factory protests. They brought the factories to the gate. Through the recent protests, they brought the retailers to the table as well. And the factories, everyone's now sitting around the table. But there has to be realism that you don't fix things overnight. There also has to be realism from the factory side that if they put farmers out of business. They won't have anyone to buy beef off of, and that's a real possibility.
All right, thank you for that update. As the ire of Dublin commuters erupts, Pat O'Toole, Farmers Journal news editor, trying to give a balanced overview of exactly what issues are involved. Don't forget, my Thursday interview guest joining with me will be the inimitable Mario Rosenstock. But up next, we'll have Tom Dunn on Matters Musical.
The Hard Shoulder on News Talk.
With Nissan's big electric switch. Scrappage is now available on your old car when you switch to a 100% electric Nissan Leaf.
At the Home Store and More January sale. All natural duvets and pillows half price. All 100% cotton printed duvet covers half price. All Fireside accessories half price. All prestige kitchen and cookware half price. All lamps half price. All fitness equipment half price. And that's just the start. There are plenty of other great offers at the Home Store and More January sale. All offers available online or in-store at Home Store and More. Home Store and More. Believe what we say. There's even better savings at the Home Store and More January sale.
I'm looking for an SUV with more room.
Take comfort in class-leading space and versatility.
Lower running costs too.
Take comfort in great fuel economy and low road tax.
And I want it to stand out.
Take comfort in €495. Test drive the Citroen C5 Aircross at your nearest Citroen dealer or find out more at citroen.ie.
A Swift shelter, pop-up tent, marquee party tent, or industrial shelter for business. At omaracamping.com, we still don't know. But we have all the above. So whatever you call a gazebo, we call a happy customer. omaracamping.com have tents for all events, plus all the accessories, from hog roasts and griddles to ice boxes, awnings for patios, folding tables and chairs, and lots more. For every event, omaracamping.com have a tent.
For a limited time only, get Air's totally unlimited broadband for just $39.99 a month for 12 months. Sign up today and you'll also get Amazon Prime Video on us for a whole year. Watch thousands of popular movies, TV episodes, and award-winning Amazon originals. Plus, visit air.ie. Air. Let's make possible. Price for new customers. 12-month contract subject to availability. Bundle activation fee may apply. For full details and terms.
Get a quote now at its
Competition in business. It's a good thing. It drives improvement, increases standards. We should know. The race never stops, so neither can you. That next big move, the most creative idea, to stand out from the crowd. Sharper, quicker, smarter. No pressure. Preparation is key. The right people together, the right conditions, the right tools. You need space to breathe, space to think, no distractions. We'll create the setting.
Wipes, 4-pack plus 1 free, and selected Persil non-bio capsules, liquid and powder detergents. And save even more with our 10 off 50 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value.
Switch. Scrappage is now available on your old car when you switch to a 100% electric Nissan Leaf.
This is News Talk.
Well, it's Thursday. It's that time of the week when Tom Dunn gives us a break from all the election coverage to talk Matters Musical. It hasn't gone away, you know. First up, take a listen to this. Well, that was, of course, the James Bond movie theme, and we played that because pop star Billie Eilish, sorry about that, is set to become the youngest ever artist to write and record a James Bond title song for the latest release, No Time to Die. Who? Billie who?
Billie Eilish. She really is a sensation. She, I think about 2 years ago, she would have been playing tiny little venues, and her mother would have been selling T-shirts for her at the front of the house. Her brother writes the music with her, and then the songs are just great. And if you have a great song, as they say, the cliche is it'll open doors for you, it'll go on the radio for you, it'll manage you. And her songs did that. And over the course of about 12 months, she went from tiny venues to massive ones. And people like Elton John saying she's a generational talent. It's like a Madonna. She really is brilliant. She's mesmerising, sensational performance. The $64,000 question. Star quality.
Is she hot? Is it the type of songs she sings?
It's the songs. It's the songs and her performance of the songs. Does
she move?
She moves very well. She's great hand motions, and they're beautifully, cleverly written songs as well. She just draws you. It's a really iconic
And
song
is this like, is it, the Eurovision sometimes,
Yeah.
You have a song contest and everyone submits their song and the finished article, and other times they're asked to go compose something. Is it the former or the latter?
Yeah, this is one where they're asked to go and compose something, and what they do is a man called John Barry initially was the main guiding light in composing the songs. He died about 2011, and a guy called David Arnold has taken over. But yeah, they go in, and it used to be in conjunction with John Barry. You would write a song, and they would approach people like Carly Simon and Adele and Paul McCartney and Louis Armstrong.
Top end, yeah.
Absolutely. Shirley Bassey. The John Barry thing is big because he would bring this kind of very distinctively James Bond signature strings, suspense and drama. He would add that. And
Okay,
David
when is
Arnold
the
does
movie
that.
out?
I think it's towards the end of this year. and
Okay, it's a while to go.
Great expectation over because
And is it released separately, the single?
Should come out ahead of it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right.
And reports of it, they said it's a vocal that will echo for generations to come. So can't wait.
All right. Now, let's move to Tom's album of the week. Take a listen.
In this house we are mapping songs on evening walks. We put many trees, we keep many leaves on this sidewalks. Some days we
Well, that was from Tom's album of the week. It's called See You Tomorrow, and it's by the Innocence Mission.
Yeah.
Rather bizarrely, I've never heard of them. Who
Well,
are
I have
they?
to be honest now, I had to search a little bit for this because there is something going on. There is something in the air. And I think a day when you and I don't have an album of the week is maybe 6 months or a year away, thereabouts. Album sales are falling because the whole concept of recording an album is just, it belongs to a particular time in music when you would release a CD or a vinyl album. And that's really disappearing.
Why?
People are streaming.
Just one song?
Just one song. Yeah. So, for instance...
And you get more hits that way than if you produce 12 tracks.
Unless you have the one song streaming, there's no interest in your other songs. So you have to get the one out there to begin with, and then maybe you might get to record a body of songs. But curiosity got the better of me, and in 1967, the year of Sgt. Pepper, there were about 500 albums released. Not that many. And then when CDs and things came in, around 2006, it peaked at 3,500 albums. It's now down to...
Per year?
Yeah, it's now down to 1,000 albums a year. So the peak has come, and it's falling by around the 200 mark per year.
It's sort of cyclical, yeah?
It is.
Yeah.
It's so the writing's on the wall. So there were only 19 albums released this week, of which 5 were best-ofs. So I wouldn't count them. So I had to cast the net to find this.
But
is a
who
band.
are the Innocence Mission?
They are a band who've been around since the 1990s.
Sounds like a voluntary NGO for housing or something.
Yes, they're from Lancaster in Pennsylvania, and in America they're known as kind of unheralded folk legends. They've released about 11 albums, and they're very beautiful. Folky, a husband and wife team. They write at home, they record in the basement, but that doesn't take away from their beautifully professional
Are they hillbillies?
They're just that
rednecks,
lovely. No.
Like I travelled through rural America. I saw
So
quite a
have
few of
I.
those.
So have I done. Yeah, no, they're the opposite of that. They're very bespoke, educated, sensitive, beautifully observed.
Are they big in the
songs.
States?
Not very big at all. No,
Oh, right.
they're selective. They're kind of an acquired taste.
So what do the lyrics? Are they like,
all-
often it's a polemic you're feeding to me.
Yeah, the lyrics are just to do with the normal everyday stuff of life.
Sex, drugs, no?
Hardly any of that. No, more relationships and
heartbreak.
A bit more serious than that, yeah. But as you heard, they're very gorgeous.
I can do serious, don't I?
Well, I know you can.
So this particular album...
It's their 11th album, and it's really beautiful. And I think in a time in the world where you can literally cast your net right around the world and just stream these things and listen to them, this is well worth some of your time. It's on Tidal, which I'm a huge fan of at the moment. You can take the time out, listen to it and just enjoy it.
How many albums have they produced?
11.
And are they kind of ancient?
Husband and wife team would have had their first hit in the mid-90s, so they'd probably be in their late 40s, let's say.
Right.
That's young enough.
They're not past
I know,
it like myself.
In 2020.
Okay,
young.
let's move to Tom's gig of the week.
Just who's your friend. Don't be sad, I know.
That was, of course, Jerry Fish, and we played that because he is your gig of the week. Okay, it's happening on the 22nd of January. That's next Wednesday.
It is next Wednesday, and it's a very special gig. It's a gig to honour the birthday of a man called Daniel Johnson. Daniel Johnson was a singer-songwriter in America. He was a cult figure, and very famously Nirvana, when they did the MTV Unplugged, Kurt Cobain wore a Daniel Johnson t-shirt. He was a strange figure because he, without question, had mental health issues, and his songs are written with a certain simplicity, but there's also a great wisdom to them. So when you go past the simplicity of them, there's something really brilliant about them and very haunting and powerful about them. So all around the world, his birthday is being celebrated. The day is called Hi, How Are You? Because that was the name of one of his albums, and it's being celebrated throughout the world. This is the Dublin one. Jerry Fish is the man putting it together, and Jerry Fish has a certain affinity with his songs. He has a new song out called The Story of an Artist, which is a Daniel Johnson song, and his previous one, True Love Will Find You at the End, was also Daniel Johnson, and they're gorgeous songs. Glenn Hansard from The Frames and from Oscar-winning fame as well will be one of those appearances. This will sell out in a heartbeat. So
right, and where's it on?
A venue in Dublin called Bloody Mary's, which is a small enough venue as well. So this will be a hot ticket.
Right. Fine. I don't believe it.
Yes.
We've had Christmas toys for pets.
Yep.
We've had clothes and grooming and shampooing for pets. Now there's a Spotify playlist for pets.
An issue with a lot of pets, particularly with dogs, is they're left alone for the day in the house, quiet house. They might hear trucks going past, might upset them and stuff like that, or whatever, the postman coming. So this is a curated playlist of different music and noises and voices